Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal. See playlist for other chapters and novels. Join now our Telegram channel now and enjoy exclusive early access. t.me/blood_immortal_official. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 301, We won. Chapter 301, We won. Did you guys see that? Junior Master Lin is simply too strong. A disciple exclaimed out excitedly. I saw it, I saw it. Some of the other disciples could only stare wide-eyed at this, speechless. Power be to Junior Master Lin. Long life to Junior Master Lin. To these disciples who had barely grazed through death's door, Lin Fan's blazing punch had completely given them hope for life once more. Zhang Ergo and the others were equally stumped as well. Since when did their master turn this strong? Blowing off the head of a greater celestial full cultivation being with just a single punch. That was bloody terrifying. Since when did this lad turn this overpowered? Senior Elder Wuya mumbled in disbelief. Grand Master Yan looked at Lin Fan with equally shocked eyes. He could feel the horror of that single punch. If he himself was in the position of that man, he might end up in the same state. Towards that, Grand Master Yan felt a little dampened. If only Lin Fan had returned earlier. Highs. But Yan Hongyu shook his head right after. How were there so many things in this world which could go the way they willed it to? Ding, congratulations on killing greater celestial full cultivation being. Ding, experience points plus 800 million. Tossing the corpse in his storage sack, Lin Fan then looked up once more. Han Yongyi was frowning right now. That had not gone the way he had expected it to. Behind him, the other senior elders shuddered momentarily as well. They could feel the horror seeping within them. Even though that punch looked to be extremely normal, they could sense an unstoppable force that was surging through it. Lin Fan could see through Han Yongyi right now. That black mist that was coiling around his body resembled what happened to Liang Yichu. He was taken over by something. But Lin Fan could not make out what it was. But none of these mattered to Lin Fan. After all of them must die. Not bad, lad, not bad. Han Yongyi gave off a cold laugh without a single bit of fear. However, just as he did that, something shocking happened. I don't wish to waste my time talking anymore. All of you can go and die. Lin Fan glared at Han Yongyi coldly before throwing out a punch. Suddenly, a massive amount of energy erupted from Lin Fan's body. The energy from his right arm collided non-stop with the void around it. Small explosions occurred around Lin Fan's right arm as he passed through the sky. Those black sutras gave off a gleaming bright light. Go and die, Lin Fan roared in anger. His single fist was enough to destroy the heavens as he caused the void around him to rip apart destructively. Feeling this massive energy surging towards them, the senior elders behind Han Yongyi's back were turning pale as well. Insolent, Han Yongyi yelled out in anger as well. All the dark energy he had taken within his body was now being released as he was covered in denser and denser black mist. This aura was frightening to behold. Lin Fan's fist approached. That overpowering fist shone brightly, bathed in a golden light. This was a fist that was infused with both true energy and the power of the energy grid lines, strong enough to wreck the entire heavens. Roaring in anger, Han Yongyi used both of his hands to defend against the punch. However, he realized in horror that he could not block it entirely. Boom, that mighty fist was unstoppable, holding on to Han Yongyi within it in an instant. Arg, a tragic cry rang out from the chaotic skies. All the glory sect disciples looked up into the skies, wondering what was happening within that mess. Grand Master Yan and the others were also looking at the sky in equal shock. They could feel the immense amount of energy within that single punch, causing their hearts to be thumping right now. Lin Fan stood there looking coldly. He could not help but raise his evaluation of Han Yongyi. To think that he could still survive that single punch. Arg, impossible. Han Yongyi's voice permeated through the skies. As the bright light started clearing, all the disciples looking up at the skies could not help but gasp. Like the incarnation of a demon lord, that mighty Han Yongyi had lost half of his body with that single blow. Fresh blood was spraying down from the sky, and the scene was extremely gory to behold. Lin Fan frowned. Seemed like he had to take note of his limits from now on. If he were to blow the other half of the body apart as well, then he would have nothing to smelt out of it anymore. Yan Hongyu and the others were just stumped beyond words right now. To think that Lin Fan would grow to such a level. Ah, Junior Master Lin is too strong. Junior Master Lin, kill him. Glory be to Junior Master Lin. Thank goodness Junior Master Lin is around, or we'd be dead right now. While cheering, all the Glory Sect disciples could not help but feel relieved as well. This was too close for comfort. Too close. Grand Master. The numerous senior elders of the Jushao sect looked in horror as the blood in the faces was draining rapidly. To think that the invincible Grand Master they revered would have half of his body blown off with a single strike. How was that possible? They wanted to run, but something horrifying happened in that instant. Leaping from where he was, Lin Fan appeared right before them. HMPH, since you guys came, all of you shall stay here then. Piok. With a single slap, a senior elder of Jushao sect cried out in agony before dropping down from the skies heavily. Ding, congratulations on killing greater celestial full cultivation being. Ding, experience points plus 800 million. Ding, congratulations on leveling up. Lesser celestial middle level, 10 million 3 billionths. ... Wow, look at Junior Master Lin. He killed that person with a single palm slap. Junior Master Lin is too domineering. Ha, kill off Glory Sect. Do you guys have what it takes with Junior Master Lin around? Looking at the bodies dropping down from the skies one by one, the Glory Sect disciples were exhilarated beyond words. They felt like their hearts could explode from this excitement right now. To think that Junior Master Lin would be strong to this extent. Zhang Henshin stared dumbfoundedly at the bodies dropping down from the skies one by one. He had entered a petrified state of shock as well. Lu Yan gripped his fist tightly. He had wanted to prove to this man that it was his mistake for not selecting him in the past. However, looking at what was happening right now, he had realized that it was all wishful thinking on his own part. How laughable his earlier thoughts seemed right now. All the Jalan Peak disciples were filled with emotion right now. On the one hand, they were extremely heartbroken that their peak master had died. But on the other hand, they were extremely riled up watching these people who had caused the death of their master fall one by one. Don't kill me. One of the senior elders of Jushao sect was shivering from head to toe, looking at the sight of this person that was even more like a death god than a death god itself. HMPH. To think that you're a greater celestial being. Even your sect's disciples had more guts. You ought to die, Lin Fan replied in disdain. Piok. Yet another slap and the Jushao sect's senior elder swung down towards the ground like a kite broken off from its thread. Ding, congratulations on leveling up. Lesser celestial upper level, 100 million 4 billionths. After killing off all the senior elders, Lin Fan turned around and looked straight at Han Yongyi. You're the only one left now. I've got to see just how much capability you've got now to destroy my Glory Sect. Lin Fan hollered in anger. That overbearing presence of Lin Fan repressed Han Yongyi's heart with immense pressure. Grand Master. Just then, Xinfeng ran over from the distance. Looking at that figure in the skies, he did not know what to feel as well. Haha, you wanna kill me? Not so easy. I shall have the entire Glory Sect accompany me in my burial today. Screaming in rage, a black mist surged up into the skies as a sinister aura let loose from his body. He wants to self-destruct. Looking at what was happening, Senior Elder Wuya exclaimed out in shock. Haha, don't think that you can win. Everyone in the Xuanwang world must die. Han Yongyi continued with his maddened cries. He had reached the epitome of his aura, ready to explode at any moment. HMPH. Dump asterisk CK. Lin Fan snorted coldly before flashing over to Han Yongyi's side. You. Han Yongyi glared at Lin Fan with unbelievable hatred. Go and self-destruct on your own. Lin Fan touched Han Yongyi's half-body and continued shouting. Get the FCK into my heaven and earth smelt. And just like that, Han Yongyi's body disappeared miraculously from the skies without a single trace left. Standing from the skies, Lin Fan looked down at the entire Glory Sect and opened his arms wide. We won. One by one, these words spread through the ears of the Glory Sect disciples. Everyone followed with a cheer. We won. The disciples were hugging one another and crying out emotionally. They had thought that they would die right then and there. To think that Junior Master Lin would appear and turn the tides. November LBJNN. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. More death god than a death god. Someone should compile the golden phrases of this novel, haha. But yeah, we're finally about to be done with this arc. Of course, there's still an overarching arc with a deep story we're waiting to uncover. But I'm glad that the Saint Devil sect gang are alright. I feel really bad for Shinfeng though. He's had it worst emo. And also, here's hoping that Gong Bingye actually survives, sigh. Chapter 302. Momentary Peace Before the Great Calamity. Chapter 302. Momentary Peace Before the Great Calamity. Ding, congratulations on killing Greater Celestial Full Cultivation Being. Ding, experience points plus 1,500,000,000 feet. Ding, congratulations on smelting 16 energy grid line chains. Lin Fan did not expect that Han Yongyi's energy grid line chains had reached an astonishing number of 16. No wonder Glory Sect nearly fell to this man. With his sneak attack on Grandmaster Yan, he just single-handedly held down the entire Glory Sect right after. Lin Fan looked around at the fellow disciples. Some of them were agitated while others sorrowed. Lin Fan let out a sigh as well. Even though he still made it in time, there were still casualties of war who could not be saved. Master. Looking at Lin Fan, Zhang Ergo cried emotionally. Lin Fan nodded his head before reaching down to fondle Kai Zhichao's little head as well. Master, please hurry and save the junior brothers. Zhang Ergo carried on hurriedly. Lin Fan came before Tian Yu and Feng Buju and checked out their wounds. While deadly, at least they still had a single breath left within them. Now that the life force of the mythical parasol tree had been used once by him, he couldn't use it as abundantly as he'd like to right now. But to bring some of it out into cultivating some pills should be possible. Opening his palm, medicinal herbs started to float onto his palm. Pills through thought. One by one, the medicinal herbs danced within the flame on his palm. After that, a large number of pills flew out from it. Taking 2 of them out, he fed them to Tian Yu and Feng Buju. The effect was good indeed, as the 2 disciples took a turn for the better gradually. The mythical parasol tree was a godly object indeed. Ergo, hurry and take this pill over for me, Changqi. Lin Fan ordered. Yes. Zhang Ergo nodded. Master, please save Whitey and Sister Gong. Zhichao cried out. Lin Fan looked at the snow lion in Kai Zhichao's embrace. It was injured pretty badly, but it was fine because beasts had a strong life force to begin with. Additionally, the bloodline of the snow lion was starting to show signs of it returning to its ancient roots, increasing the life force even further. Lin Fan then placed a pill within its mouth, allowing the cub to slowly recover. Sister Gong. Upon hearing this, Lin Fan was puzzled for a moment, wondering just who this Sister Gong was. But looking at the person laying in a pool of blood, Lin Fan took a second take. Why was this person so familiar looking? That was right, it was that fella from the Mo City. But how did this person end up in the Glory Sect? Furthermore, how was she so chummy with Zhichao right now? Lin Fan's brain was tinkering non-stop. Could it be that this person had smuggled into Glory Sect based on his identity and some made-up story to make use of the sect for her own profits? Thinking this, he contemplated whether or not to save her. Perhaps he should just lie to Zhichao. After all, a momentary pain was better than keeping a wolf in their own midst. Master, please hurry up and save Sister Gong. I'm only okay because she pushed me away. Looking at Whitey beginning to recover, Kai Zhichao's mood improved slightly. However, she was still extremely sad over Sister Gong's state. Lin Fan nodded his head and fondled Kai Zhichao's head. Forget it, he would save her first before asking her to leave the sect. He looked down at Gong Bingyi's peerlessly beautiful face. She was pale as a sheet right now. That petite body of hers was filled with a hole that pierced through her body entirely. In fact, he could even see her internal organs moving. Seems like you've got pretty good luck indeed for the wound to have missed your vital organs. Lin Fan could not help but praise her good luck. It was just that close a shave. After placing a pill in her mouth, Kai Zhichao stayed by her side to keep guard over her. Lin Fan then came over to Grandmaster Yan and the other senior elders to hand them the pills. This will help your wounds recover faster. Receiving the pill, Grandmaster Yan shook his head gently. Highs, it's no use. Our wounds are too. Before he could even continue, he was astonished. To think that the life force of this pill would be so strong. That was entirely unthinkable. This could put up a strong fight with those godly pills that were made just for recovery of injuries. But Lin Fan had barely put in any effort into making these. How could he have produced such miraculous pills within such a short period of time? Could it be that the herbs he used were valuable beyond measures? But that was not the case either. They had seen the herbs he used, they were all ordinary. Even the most precious amongst them was a mere lingua plant. Unable to understand at all of them swallowed the pills eventually. As the life force spread out within their bodies, their injuries began to heal gradually. Just what sort of adventures have you been up to outside all this while, lad? Goodness, haven't you grown way too fast? Senior Elder Wuya's pale face began to flush back with redness. Towards Lin Fan's strength right now, he was just beyond surprised. To think that he had saved Lin Fan from his grave injuries obtained in Kangling Continent. And that was just half a year ago. In just a mere 6 months, he had grown to this terrifying state. Highs, so what if I've grown stronger? I've still caused the sect to sustain some considerable losses. Lin Fan said regrettably. Highs, junior sister. Thinking back of their junior sister of Jalan Peak's death, all of them shook their heads in pain. What happened? Lin Fan asked. Wuya shook his head and related the news of Jalan Peak's senior elder's death to Lin Fan. After hearing it, Lin Fan was silent as well as he looked over at the Jalan Peak disciples. Mu Bingyan's dazed expression was especially heart-wrenching. Lin Fan walked towards the direction of the Jalan Peak disciples. Some of the female disciples who caught sight of Lin Fan greeted him as junior master courteously. Lin Fan nodded his head to each greeting in acknowledgement before he finally came to Mu Bingyan. My condolences. Jalan Peak will depend on you from now on. Lin Fan did not know what else he could say, but he could empathize with this same pain of losing a dear one. Yes, thank you junior master. Mu Bingyan nodded her head. Lin Fan could tell that there were still tears waiting to flow out from her eyes. But as the peak master of Jalan Peak right now, she knew that she had to be strong for the others. If there's anything you require in the future, feel free to look for me at Nameless Peak. This was all that Lin Fan could say. As for the path in the future, it all depended on Mu Bingyan herself. But Lin Fan knew that this event would cause changes within Glory Sect from top down. This would serve as motivation for every single disciple in the sect to work and push themselves even harder. In the face of absolute power, all of them now knew how helpless and minuscule they were. Lin Fan was no longer concerned with matters like being the strongest person within the sect. The main issue now was to get to the bottom of all these events. For Glory Sect, the events this time around might be a great impact, but to Xinfeng, it was practically a hard knock on his head. It was such a tough knock that he did not even know what the future held anymore. Brother Feng, looking at the dumbfounded Xinfeng standing quietly at one side, Lin Fan did not know what he should say either. It's okay, Brother Lin. I understand. Xinfeng nodded his head. He knew that this was Jushao Sect's own tribulation. From this day on, Jushao Sect would have to depend on you. Lin Fan knew that after the events this time around, Jushao Sect would most likely fall from their place as a top sect into one of the inferior sects. This would be an immense blow to any single sect, having all their strongest powerhouses slain overnight. For the Jushao Sect of today, Xinfeng was most probably the strongest person within right now. But with just that strength of his, it would be tough for anyone to sustain the entire sect. I know, no matter what, I would not allow Jushao Sect to perish just like that. I'll stay strong, but all I want to know is why the Grand Master had turned that way. Xinfeng could not figure out how his respectable Grand Master had turned as such. All I can tell you is that they've been devoured by a sinister dark force. However, I do not know the true source of it as well. But, I will continue my search for the true origins of this matter. Lin Fan replied. Yes, Brother Lin, I'll be heading back to the sect then. As long as Jushao Sect does not perish, we will take responsibility for this matter in the future. Xinfeng was feeling slightly heartened. At least his Grand Master was still the person he had remembered in his heart. He had only turned this way under the influence of a dark being. Otherwise, this would be a terrible blow for Xinfeng's heart. Remember to let me know if you need anything. Lin Fan patted Xinfeng's shoulders. Yes. After Xinfeng left, Glory Sect entered a state of restructuring as well. The construction earth demons began their hard work. As for the disciples who had died in the war, their bodies were buried as well. All of them had died protecting the sect. As such, their tablets would be placed in the sect's Hall of Glory. This was the final bit of recognition Glory Sect could accord them. Translator's thoughts and O-vel-b in .c ohm. Lam. Okay, everything aside, I think Lin Fan should have given Gong Bingye more recognition. And Xinfeng really didn't deserve this man. I hope we still get to see him in the future. Chapter 303, Totally Envious. Chapter 303, Totally Envious. Nameless Peak. Lin Fan and the others were standing still, looking at the scene before them in wonder. Just what the hell was going on? Mie Changqi's body was floating in midair. An energy grid line chain swam around his body. Entering the void from one side of his body, it reappeared on the other side. Coiling round and round, it went on and on. Ergo, what happened? Lin Fan asked in confusion at the scene before him. Zhang Ergo shook his head, equally stumped. Master, I've got no idea too. All I did was feed the pill to junior brother. Immediately after that, a violent whirlpool erupted from within him, coiling him up. He has been floating up in midair ever since. Zhang Ergo was nearly scared to death as well, thinking that he might have harmed his junior brother. Even though junior brother Mie may have been cold to most people, Zhang Ergo could tell that that was just how he was on the outside. He was actually really warm on the inside. Just the way he sacrificed himself to rescue their little junior sister was enough for anyone to tell. This aura was really damn strong. Lin Fan frowned. The aura being emitted from Mie Changqi was really strong. It was as though a mysterious force was surging through his body. As for the energy grid line chain, it was slowly wrapping itself onto Mie Changqi's body. Bloody hell, he had just left for a short while. How did this happen in such a short period of time? To think that he was walloped to his last breath moments earlier, and yet now, he was crossing such a huge bottleneck. Evidently, senior brother Mie is undergoing a breakthrough. But how is he still unconscious right now? Tianyu was frowning as well. This was the first time he was seeing such a situation. But Lin Fan knew that the skill Mie Changqi carried was an absurdly overpowered one. Unkillable, indestructible, just the name itself was telltale of how bullshit this skill was. Lin Fan wanted to learn this skill for himself as well. Unfortunately, Mie Changqi was the only one who knew how to cultivate it, but he was unable to teach it. Towards this, Lin Fan was pretty frustrated as well. Seemed like this was a skill that might be dedicated to a single person. But oh well, Mie Changqi was a disciple of Saint Devil sect after all. No matter what, he was Lin Fan's own. What Saint Devil sect lacked right now was someone strong to hold the fort. And Mie Changqi was exactly the guy with the potential to do so. Suddenly, a massive aura erupted from Mie Changqi, causing everyone's heart to reverberate. The void around him turned chaotic beyond measure. Kill, Mie Changqi shouted out fiercely with a domineering force. That single, kill, word seemed to possess 1,000 emotions within it. The faces of Zhang Ergo and the other disciples changed immediately. Within their consciousness, dozens of images began to appear. Lin Fan coughed gently. Within Mie Changqi's kill word was a strong mental aura. Those with a weak cultivation base would find themselves immersed in a series of hallucinations. In a daze, Zhang Ergo and the others finally sobered up with Lin Fan's thunder-like cough rumbling within their consciousness. Master, is junior brother Mie alright? Zhang Ergo asked worriedly. Just what were those images in his consciousness just now? He was nearly lost within those hallucinations of the killing aura. He's alright, but you guys were nearly not. Alright, let him continue to shout on his own. All of you go and move out to let the earth demons repair our place. Lin Fan replied. Oh, nodding their heads, everyone else carried on to get busy, ignoring the floating Mie Changqi. From afternoon till night, Mie Changqi continued with his kill. Kill, kill. Looking at his junior brother Mie in midair, Feng Buju could not help but sigh. Say, big senior brother, what do you think is wrong with junior brother Mie? Why does he keep going on about killing and killing and killing? Do you think he's dreaming about some enemy or foe right now? Zhang Ergo blinked his eyes, who knows? But junior brother Mie is not young anymore. Perhaps this is just that puberty stage thing that Master was talking about. What's puberty? Feng Buju asked in confusion. He had no idea what this new term his master came up with meant. How would I know? According to Master, it means that his hormones are exploding. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. And what are hormones? Go and ask Master yourself. I've got no idea, gosh. Master has asked for me to make a trip over to his place later. Just follow me along then. Zhang Ergo dismissed Feng Buju away. Gosh, wasn't junior brother Feng just annoying? This guy just couldn't stop with his questions. Late at night, the earth demons were burning the midnight oil as well. Judging from the cling-clang sounds coming from the bottom of the hill, these guys were trying to make good use of time as well. Now, the only headache for Lin Fan was this Gong Bingye. Just how did this woman pop up in here? Furthermore, by the looks of it, she seemed to be really chummy with Zhang Ergo and the others. Bloody hell, just what the hell happened to this place in the months when he was gone? Master, I'm here. Zhang Ergo stopped outside his house and whispered gently. Yes, get the hell in. Lin Fan shouted. Even though Zhang Ergo did not know the exact reason why his master had summoned him, his hunches were pretty accurate most of the time. It must be the matter about Miss Gong. Lin Fan did not bother beating around the bush and got straight to the heart of the matter, asking about Gong Bingyi's situation around here. Zhang Ergo replied his questions accordingly, reporting to him about the happenings and changes of Nameless Peak for the past few months as well. By the time Zhang Ergo was done, Lin Fan was feeling pretty exasperated. Bloody hell, through history, he had only heard of men kidnapping village women to be their wives. This was the first bloody time that a girl had come knocking on the door herself. Master, actually, Ergo here has something to say. Just that I'm not sure if it's appropriate. Zhang Ergo stammered here and there. He seemed to have a lot on his mind, but did not know how to voice them out. Speak your mind then. Stop being a sissy. Goodness, just a few months in and this Zhang Ergo was acting like a little sissy. Did he change his sex? Well, Master, you see, the thing is, our sect is rapidly expanding right now. And you're not getting any younger, you know. Actually what we need right now is a mistress of the sect. The best is if you could pop out a young master within this year as well. I've evaluated her with all the other junior brothers. All of us agree that she's a peerless beauty with a perfect figure as well. In the words of my home's old folks, a woman with a huge bum can rear many kids. Before Zhang Ergo could finish his words, he found himself the target of a killing aura locked onto him. In a moment of shock, he found himself booted with a heavy kick on the butt straight out of the door. Get lost. Seems like you're getting out of hand without me personally training you for a long period of time, Kicking Zhang Ergo's butt, Lin Fan scolded him, albeit a little jokingly. Zhang Ergo cried out in pain and scurried out. Upon hearing the word, training, he was scared stiff. Rubbing his butt in pain, he continued to run on. Alright, you can let me know if you don't want to. You don't have to kick my A*S. But seriously, as your specially appointed big senior brother of the sect, I've really checked her out properly with my junior brothers. She's really pretty decent. You still wanna continue? No. All shut up. Breaking into a sprint, Zhang Ergo ran off with his bum swaying as he ran. Next day, Mie Changqi's shouts continued through the entire night. It was until morning when another massive aura erupted from within his body. 2 energy grid line chains clanged onto one another loudly in the skies. Zhang Ergo, who was still deep in his sleep, was shocked out of bed by this loud sound. Turning his eyes towards the sound, he was completely stupefied. At this moment, Mie Changqi was like the monk in Journey to the West, albeit a darker version. Bald, with the clothes of his upper body ripped off, his upper torso was imprinted with countless pitch-black runes and markings. Those 2 energy grid line chains intertwined with one another and coiled around his body, energy flowing on them rapidly. Shining brightly, both of them then swam into Mie Changqi's body. Bloody hell, that's even flashier than me. Lin Fan squinted his eyes. He could not deny that this short transformation of Mie Changqi was pretty cool. Just then, Mie Changqi's eyes shot wide open. A bright light swept out across the lands with him as a center, causing the void to vibrate gently for a moment. Comprehending the power of energy grid lines, fusing them into energy grid line chains. He had completed the path to a greater celestial. He had just barely stepped into the path of a greater celestial being, and he already has 2 energy grid line chains. That's a little too fast, isn't it? Bloody hell, isn't unkillable indestructible way too overpowered and heavenly defying? Lin Fan's heart tugged a little in envy. How many people had to craft their own energy grid line chains after entering the greater celestial state and slowly comprehending the way of the energy grid lines? And this man could just craft 2 chains overnight just like that. Furthermore, by the looks of it, those 2 energy grid line chains seemed a little special. When Mie Changqi finally landed on the ground and regained consciousness, his face turned into a look of excitement the moment he caught sight of his master. However, when he tried to call out to Lin Fan, all he could do was hoarsely make some sandy sounds. Mie Changqi pinched at his own throat, realizing that he had lost his voice. Alright, stop, You've been killing for an entire night now. Even if your throat were made of steel, it'd be killed off as well. Lin Fan waved his hand in acknowledgement. Mie Changqi had no recollection of anything that had happened. All he knew was that his power level had spiked up dozens of folds. Senior brother, you're not wearing clothes. Shame. Zhichao was wearing her animal-styled pajamas as she rubbed her half-sleepy eyes. Mie Changqi shrugged his head awkwardly before breaking out in a laugh. All smiles, Lin Fan nodded his head heartedly. Alright, I'll head over to the Grand Master for a bit. You guys go and get busy on your own. He had just received a summon over by the Grand Master. He garnered that something must be up. As for Gong Bingye, he would deal with her matters after her injuries had healed completely. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. Phew, what a happy ending finally. Though I still don't really wanna see Gong Bingye go sigh. And also, doesn't it feel so warm to have Lin Fan back at the sect? It really kinda feels like home in a way, doesn't it, haha. And we have our lovely Kaiser Chow with her animal-styled pajamas. Ah. Oh, by the way, happy ending for the novel, but not so happy for our author. I'ma give a synopsis for his raw comments. So apparently, he had a clique of 7 friends in university. And they just found out that one of his dear friend's husband was having an affair. So the males of the clique were going to confront the husband or the mistress. Wow, drama much. I hope he gives me an ending to this side story though, haha. I'll keep you guys updated if he updates on this. Chapter 304. Not much, just half. Chapter 304. Not much, just half. Even though the losses for Glory Sect this time round were considerable, they were still much better than Jushao Sect. Jushao Sect's state was akin to having the entire sect destroyed entirely. Grand Master, dead. Senior elders, dead. All of their strongest powerhouses were all dead. The burden on Xinfeng's shoulders would be really heavy from now on. As brothers, they had to help as much as they could. And even if they couldn't, they still had to find a way to help out of their own losses. N.O.V.L.B. in .C. Ohm. Presently at the Grand Master's peak, some of the senior elders of Glory Sect gathered with grim looks on their faces. They were supposed to be beings in a state where nothing much could affect their moods. But the events this time round had shattered even those steely hearts of theirs. Lin Fan, for the sect to be able to tide through the dire circumstances this time round, your credit is second to none. Is there any request you'd like to make? Yan Hongyu inquired. Lin Fan's credit was the greatest of them all. If he had not returned in time, Glory Sect might have truly been desecrated with not a single survivor remaining. For this, Yan Hongyu blamed himself as well. This was all because he did not put up any precautions against Han Yongyi, leading to those disastrous outcomes. Grand Master, senior elders, we can discuss the matter of rewards later on. But right now, I want to know the reason why Xuanwang world was divided into 2. It was evident that the Grand Master and the other senior elders of Jushao Sect were invaded by some evil being. A being like that who could possess a greater celestial full cultivation being must be far from ordinary. Lin Fan asked without holding back. He knew that the Grand Master and the others must know something about it at least. As one of the top sects of the entire Dongling continent, they must know of many secrets compared to others. No one in this world would decide to expend so much effort just to split Xuanwang world into 2 for no reason. Also, that amount of strength wasn't something any of these people present could possess. In fact, even Lin Fan, who had fused with the Eternal Arm, did not possess such capabilities. At the same time, Lin Fan's mind was filled with doubts. Even though being a greater celestial full cultivation was considered the peak of powers in this Xuanwang world, but how could it be that case? Let alone the mere Eternal Arm, that evil being must definitely possess more power than any greater celestial full cultivation being. Also, now that the Eternal Arm and Eternal Donger had already made their appearance, where were the other body parts? And how many of them were there? Everything, every single thing, was a puzzle. Yan Hongyu and the other senior elders glanced at one another before taking in a deep breath. Flicking his robes, a mysterious rock flew out of his sleeves. The rock looked extremely normal, with nothing special about it. However, a bright light screen suddenly emerged from it. Everything we know right now, you shall know soon as well. Yan Hongyu continued. Looking at the projection formed by the light of this rock, Lin Fan frowned. On the screen was displayed an image of Xuanwang world, perfect as it was, before it was split into 2. A figure stood in the image, mighty and strong, with an aura of superiority. Even if we have to retreat continuously, the last sacred grounds of mankind shall not be easily trespassed. Suddenly, the figure grew larger than ever. Even though it was just a projection, Lin Fan was visibly shaken by the invisible aura that this image of the man was giving off. If he were present at that very moment, he would have most likely disintegrated into dust and dirt immediately. With just a single punch, the heavens rumbled. The energy grid lines began reversing, and with a single ray of bright light, Xuanwang world was split entirely. As though it had expended all its energy, that mighty figure started breaking apart. 6 broken shards flew out in all directions and disappeared entirely. Lin Fan identified what those 6 shards were. They were the Supreme Being token shards. He stared at this projection for a really long time, unable to recover back to his senses. He had already obtained one of the token shards right now. However, even the punch he had witnessed earlier in the token shard was nowhere near the power of this punch in the current projection. In fact, even the eternal arm would definitely be no match for it. Lin Fan was silent right now. After obtaining the eternal arm, he had thought that he was practically invincible. But he gradually realized how minuscule he was in the face of that power he had just witnessed as well. And the most shocking revelation was that there were still unknown dangers that laid awaiting outside the Xuanwang world. And this is all that we know right now. Glory Sect has been established for 10,000 years, and we've been trying to seek out the truth behind it all. Our ancestors had spent countless years researching, but none of them could get to the root of it all. Perhaps the truth would only reveal itself after all 6 of the Supreme Being token shards are gathered. Yan Hongyu continued. As for those evil beings who were able to invade the human body, there have been no records of such things. Hence, we've got no idea at all as well. Grand Master, this is not the urgent matter at hand. I suppose we've still got time to deal with it all. Let's discuss the pressing matter right now. Lin Fan's originally solemn look had now dissolved. This time around, to make the trip of tens of thousands of miles from Jushao Sect back to Glory Sect, I made use of a tribute. With that, I used up half of Jushao Sect's treasure vault. I feel that even though Glory Sect's losses were considerable, we did not lose as much as Jushao Sect did. Therefore, my request is for Glory Sect to donate half of our treasure vault over to Jushao Sect as compensation. While Lin Fan was going on with his sentence, he took keen notice of the look on the Grand Master and the senior elders' faces. The moment he got to the part of donating half of Glory Sect's treasure vault, the expressions of everyone turned into a pained one. It was as if someone wanted to cut a piece of their flesh away. This was the treasure vault they were talking about. This place was filled with treasures that they had accumulated painstakingly over generations. To lose half of it all in an instant, anyone would be heartbroken. If it were just 1 or 2, Yan Hongyu would have waved his hand dismissively and agreed instantly to show the generosity as the Grand Master of a gigantic sect. However, giving half of it away was akin to robbing him of his life. Highs, why did I bother asking? I knew that all of you guys would definitely agree for sure with me after all. As I recalled, even at the brink of Jushao Sect's destruction, the guardian spirit within the treasure vault handed over all the treasures within the vault in an act of self-sacrifice. Upon knowing that I was rushing back to rescue Glory Sect, do you guys know what the treasure guardian spirit said to me? Looking at everyone present, Lin Fan's face gave off a look of shocked respect. What did he say? Yan Hongyu and the others were curious. They knew of the treasure guardian spirits too. These were a bunch of selfish and greedy spirits who viewed their treasures as their lives. No one could be thirstier for treasures than them. He said that Glory Sect has been a bosom sect of Jushao Sect for many generations. Even if he had to give up all of his treasures, he had to ensure the success of the tribute. And if that wasn't enough, he was willing to sacrifice even his own life as a tribute. Guys, look at that. Is it too much to give Jushao Sect half of our treasure vault for such kinship? No, right, if it were me, I couldn't even wait to rush there right now to return this act of gratitude. Lin Fan's acting skills had risen again as his voice quivered, as though he was about to cry. Yan Hongyu and the other senior elders looked at one another. An invisible current seemed to be passing through their eyes right now. Yan Hongyu, what should we do? This lad wants an entire half, gosh. Wuya, giving his heart away to the outsiders, how I wish I could kill him with a single slap right now. But we don't seem to be his match anymore. Yan Zonwen, my heart is hurting right now. I don't wish to think more about this. Lu Mingyang, all the treasure guardian spirits in this world share the same pattern. Could the one back at Jushao Sect really be this different? Yan Hongyu, FCK it. To give or not to give? Wuya, forget it. Since the lad has already put it this way, it's obvious that he has already placed his entire heart on that brother of his at Jushao Sect. Every one of them sighed deeply in their hearts. Cough. Yan Hongyu retracted his eye contact and then coughed slightly. He then looked over at Lin Fan. That's right. Since Jushao Sect has already done so much, the Glory Sect mustn't let them down as well. Half then. I'll hand you my token. Head over to the treasure vault yourself later and pick out the treasures with our guardian spirit. The moment Lin Fan heard these words, he grinned. Our Grand Master is wise and magnanimous indeed. Yan Hongyu nodded his head. Even though his face was solemn, his heart was pained beyond words. He was just putting on a strong front right now. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. Wow, the plot soup continues to thicken and thicken. Now we're even getting out of the Xuanwang world itself. Though I'm truly heartened that Lin Fan has his bro in his heart. Chapter 305, So Bloody Wealthy. Chapter 305, So Bloody Wealthy. The next day, all the color seemed to have drained from the skies, leaving only gray clouds. The mood on Earth seemed to be especially grim because of the dark skies. From top to bottom, every single member of Glory Sect was in a grim mood as well. It was as though a rock was pressing down heavily on their hearts. Standing together, the disciples formed a sea of black as they were all draped in black robes, surrounding Glory Sect's Hall of Glory. This was Glory Sect's home for their valiant spirits. For the past 10,000 years, every single person who had died for the sake of the sect were laid in this final resting place. The Hall of Glory was located on a peak far in the east. This peak was the same height as the Grandmaster's peak. This was Glory Sect's most glorious location. However, this glory could only be obtained post-death. Lin Fan was standing in the front row together with the Grandmaster and the other senior elder, looking at the rows of tablets in front of them. Such was the fragility of young lives, to burn as brightly and as short-lived as fireworks. They themselves might have never expected their early demise either, and could have had so many wonderful things and plans awaiting them in the future. Master. Mu Bingyan's hands were trembling as she caressed that cold stone tablet. Every single word etched on it was like a sharp blade, carving wounds within her heart. Master. Mu Bingyan's peerlessly beautiful face no longer had the flush of blood. It was as though her heart was ripped apart violently. This pain hurt, it really hurt. Yet, she could not even let out a single drop of tear. She was now the peak master of Jalan Peak. She had to be strong, and led her junior sisters to be even stronger. Master. Mu Bingyan's lips were quivering. She could no longer hold on as streams of tears flowed down from her eyes. She was a princess of a dynasty who was hunted down for her life back in her youth. Just as she had fallen in a frozen tundra awaiting death in her most desolate moment, a warm pair of hands stretched out and hugged her. She was then carried to this place called Jalan Peak, which was filled with warmth. Here, Mu Bingyan did not think back about the past. All she wanted to do was to stay by her master's side silently. But now that her master had left her, she could no longer hide her pain as she cried sorrowfully. Master, Bingyan will fulfill your final wish. Please leave in peace. Mu Bingyan lowered her head as her tears splashed down onto the ground. For someone as cold as her, these were tears of a deep-rooted pain. All the disciples of Jalan Peak sobbed silently as well. Their beloved peak master had left them. The other disciples of Glory Sect lowered their heads and mourned in silence as well. This was for their fallen brothers. N.O.V.L.B. in .C. Om. Glory Sect, a great sect with a 10,000-year-old history. Even though we've been through many trials and tribulations, all of you must remember this fateful day. 368 of our disciples have fallen defending the sect. All of them have served their duties to the sect with an immense contribution. Thus, they are specially inducted into the Hall of Glory. All of our future disciples and generations should do well to remember them. Yan Hongyu called out loudly into the skies with a solemn expression. His voice permeated the entire Glory Sect. Looking at all this, Lin Fan was filled with emotion. Even though the cultivation bases of these disciples were not very high, all of them were worthy of respect. Disciples clad in black robes carried these tablets into the Hall of Glory, propping them up in front of their chest with both hands. All of their faces were pained as they arranged these tablets properly within. Lin Fan let out a sigh as he patted Chicky, who was on his shoulders. The generally lively Chicky was unusually quiet right now, with his head bowed down as well, only cawing softly. It was as though Chicky was connected with Lin Fan's heart. When Lin Fan was upset, Chicky too was upset. Cuckoo. Using his small little head, he caressed Lin Fan's cheeks, seemingly trying to comfort him. Lin Fan came by Mu Bingyan's side and comforted her softly as well. Everyone is bound to meet with death one day. However, one's death may be meaningless or filled with meaning. They have sacrificed their lives for the sect, and will be remembered through Glory Sect's history. Junior sister, don't be too sad, and fulfill the will as the peak master of Jalan Peak, so that your master can rest well in peace. Thank you, senior brother. Mu Bingyan nodded her head, slowly regaining her spirit. Lin Fan looked into the distant sky. He wondered how sad his brother Xinfeng must be right now as well. With the Grand Master and all his senior elders dead, he was left to deal with everything alone from this point forth. With such a heavy responsibility pressing down on his shoulders, he wondered if his brother Xinfeng could hold on. Highs. Even though Xuanwang world was a place where it was survival of the fittest and life was fleeting, the pain of having one's close ones dying right before oneself was still beyond words to describe. A few days later, the masses had gradually recovered from the morose mood of the events, and had placed all their energies into the reconstruction of the sect. Numerous disciples had begun to return to their usual cultivation habits. In fact, they were way more motivated than before. Perhaps the events that had passed had made them truly understand how small they truly were. It was a big impact on their hearts after all, and these disciples were determined to grow even stronger to be able to protect the sect. While Lin Fan understood all this, he still felt that it was too late for him. If he had realized all this back in Kangling continent, Saint Devil sect might have been able to survive. No matter the greatness of a sect, there would come a day when they were faced with the threat of falling, the threat of being destroyed. But as long as he was alive, he swore to never let history repeat itself. Gong Bingyi's injury was slowly recovering as well. Lin Fan had intended to let her return at first. However, Zhe Chao, this little kid, was creating a huge fuss, crying and whining while Zhang Ergo and the others were putting in a good word for her from the side. In the end, Lin Fan did not want to argue anymore, and allowed her to stay. Take it as an extra outer sect disciple then. In the few months that Lin Fan was gone, Nameless Peak had undergone great changes. It was always bustling with people looking for goods and stuff, like any ordinary city marketplace. And of course, these items were extremely well received in Glory Sect. Lin Fan decided to let it be. However, looking at Gong Bingye, he did feel a little weird. In fact, he was pretty impressed with her. She was a woman who dared to chase after what she wanted, and dared to dream. But to think that she was dreaming of yours truly's pure and virtuous body. Dream on indeed. Who was yours truly? Yours truly was a man who was destined to be the greatest character in the entire universe. Alright, enough with the bullshit. It was time to head to the treasure vault first. A treasure vault with Glory Sect's 10,000 years of history must be extremely big. As for the treasures within, they must definitely be extremely priceless as well. Remembering the Grandmaster's pained look, Lin Fan could make a guess at how extravagant this place must be. Just the mere thought of it was causing him to be excited. Not long later, Lin Fan arrived at the location of the treasure vault. It was situated in a secret cave under the Grandmaster's peak. The entrance was surrounded by an aura seemingly patrolling the place. This must have been set up by the Grandmaster to alert him of any intruders. But holding on to the token given by the Grandmaster, Lin Fan was let through without any resistance, as the aura moved away from him. So, this is the treasure vault. Standing in front of two doors, Lin Fan sized up the place. Looking up, he found two words etched on top of the door. Treasure vault. Lin Fan shook his head. Just what kind of world-class bloody idiot was the person who designed this place? Isn't this just stupidity at its best? If some fool were to stumble across this place by chance, wouldn't he be in luck? Even if he didn't know what this place was, he would be able to tell by these bloody words etched right in. Bloody hell. Just then, the token Lin Fan was holding on to floated gently up into the air. A bright beam of light shone on top of the door. Boom, boom, the two doors slowly opened up as Lin Fan's heart stopped for a second. He could sense the aura of treasures. It was thick. Lin Fan entered, brimming with excitement. Looking at what was inside, his eyes were opened wider than ever. Money slave. He was going to be a money slave. Packed densely on every single shelf, treasures were abundant. Even the aura of the vault itself was so dense and thick that it was almost solid. It seemed like a sticky mist. Compared to Jushao sects, this was way classier. The extreme west of the continent was a place scarce of resources. Seemed like it was right after all. The place where Glory Sect was situated was full of resources and connections to other places. Hence, the treasures they obtained were naturally even more bountiful. Chapter 306. Shooting keeps you healthy. Chapter 306. Shooting keeps you healthy. Jushao sect was not the only sect in the far western side of Dongling continent. Big or small sects, they numbered several dozens. The leader of all of them at one point, Jushao sect had lost every last bit of control. To think that they didn't even have a single powerful being to reign in these guys. It was a terrible plight that Jushao sect was in. Now that the time was opportune, all the resources and land previously owned by Jushao sect looked so alluring and tempting to the other sects. That was clearly taking someone's life while they're sick. Even though they wouldn't go to the extent of destroying Jushao sect entirely, wasn't it too much to exploit them into giving up everything now that they were defenseless? Survival of the fittest indeed. Jushao sect had reigned as the overlord for a long period of time, and while they had the chance, everyone wanted to snatch over that position. The moment all of these sects heard of the news about Jushao sect's situation, they gathered to come up with a plot to overthrow it. Finally, the seat of the overlord of the sects in the far west was up for grabs. No-vel-b in .c. However, some of the Grand Masters of smaller sects were worried. They questioned, everyone, Zhu Shao sect's ally is the Great Glory sect. Would we get into trouble for doing this? Haha, don't worry about that. Do you guys know why Zhu Shao sect is in this desolate state right now? Let me tell all of you. The reason behind Zhu Shao sect's fall is because they attacked Glory sect. From Han Yongyi down, all the senior elders have perished in the hands of Glory sect. With that said, do you guys think that Glory sect are still allies with Zhu Shao sect? Furthermore, I've heard news that the peak master of Glory sect's Jolin Peak had died in the war as well. These two sects are most likely filled with hatred for one another right now. One of the Grand Masters laughed cheerily. Upon hearing this, everyone else was reassured immediately. This was a fine piece of meat that was dangling right in front of their mouths right now. If they gave up on this, the same opportunity might not present itself again. After that, they began discussing how to split up Zhu Shao sect's resources amongst themselves. To them, Zhu Shao sect was already dancing in the palms of their hands. Glory sect, Holy sh*t. Holy sh*t. Looking at the bright and dazzling treasures, Lin Fan gulped his saliva down. The number of treasures right now was blinding his eyes indeed. Lin Fan casually picked up a murky black rock. Ding, congratulations on discovering Extinguishing Rock. Extinguishing Rock possesses the essence of energy grid lines, able to increase the speed in which one cultivates energy grid line chains. To think that even such an unseemly item was so precious. Lin Fan could not help but feel impressed with Glory sect's wealth. This seems like a pretty decent item indeed. Now that Mie Changqi's a greater celestial, this should give him a nice boost. Just as Lin Fan was about to place the extinguishing rock into his storage, a shadow flashed by. Suddenly, the extinguishing rock flew out of Lin Fan's hands as well. Who are you? Why are you here at the treasure vault? Just then, the treasure guardian spirit floated gently in midair, looking at Lin Fan warily. To a treasure guardian spirits, anyone who entered a treasure vault with a purpose of not depositing an item was definitely a bad person. You're the treasure guardian spirit around here? Lin Fan glanced at him. Why the hell did he look the exact same as Zhu Shao sect's treasure guardian spirit? Could these guardian spirits all look the same? That's right, I'm the guardian spirit of the treasures here. You've got the Grandmaster's token. Did the Grandmaster allow you in to take the treasures? Alright, what the hell do you want? Hurry up and get the hell out after taking it. The treasure guardian spirit said in a cold attitude. The way he looked at Lin Fan was extremely unfriendly. Every year, there would be a few days where the treasure guardian spirits would be in a bad mood as such. That was because each time people came by, the guardian spirit would lose a few treasures within the vault. The Grandmaster has allowed me to take off half the treasures here. Lin Fan surveyed the treasures around him and nodded his head in satisfaction. Not bad, all of these were valuable indeed. The moment Lin Fan finished his words, the treasure guardian spirit exploded. What did you say? Half? Do you want to take my life as well? The guardian spirit was entirely enraged. His expression towards Lin Fan changed as well. Far from being unfriendly, he was now looking at Lin Fan as though Lin Fan had murdered his parents. Lin Fan glanced at the guardian spirit and shook his head. Compared to the guardian spirit back at Zhu Shao sect, I'm truly disappointed in you. You, how dare you insult me as being inferior to my younger brother? The moment the guardian spirit heard this, he was so angry he barfed out. Lin Fan was stunned as well. He had seen before people spewing out blood, but looking at treasure guardian spirits puking out treasures was still quite a sight indeed. And what surprised Lin Fan even more was the fact that this guy was brothers with the treasure guardian spirit back at Zhu Shao sect. What a laughable situation this was. Guardian spirit, allow him to take half. Suddenly, a voice boomed out from the voids. Grandmaster. Upon hearing the voice of the Grandmaster, the guardian spirit could not stop shouting. However, right now, Grandmaster Yan was not in the mood to give a sh*t about him. After all, the Grandmaster's heart was feeling even more pain than the spirits. No, the treasure guardian spirit tilted his head back and screamed in anguish. One by one, treasures were being puked out of his mouth. Holy FCK, hiding so much precious stuff. Lin Fan was dumb-stricken. He had thought that the treasures within the vault were more than enough. But looking at the rate the spirit was spurting out these treasures, there should be way more than this. Do you really want to take my treasures? Having finally shot it all out, the spirit looked at Lin Fan in anger as he clenched both of his fists. Yes, that's right. Lin Fan nodded his head seriously. Was this spirit going to take on a fight with him? Alright, you can take them. but I'll be watching you from the sides. The treasure guardian spirit replied in a huff. Lin Fan shook his head. This bloody FCKTARD. Bloody hell, he thought the spirit was going to duke it out with him. Lin Fan then began to rummage about, specifically looking out for those special-looking treasures. Just then, Lin Fan's eye caught sight of a transparent sphere. Within this sphere, a purple light was swirling inside continuously. Lin Fan placed the sphere in his palms. This is a bad item. It's probably the worst thing there is in this treasure vault. This here at the side is much better. The moment the guardian spirit saw this lad picking up the sphere, his heart spiked in pain. Looking at the spirit who was floating nearby with his jaws agape, Lin Fan chuckled, "Highs, seems like you're a good guardian spirit after all. Of course, I can't just take all the good stuff, right? Since this is the trashiest, I'll keep it then so that you won't feel too heartbroken." Bloody hell, if not for the system's verification, he might really have been taken in by this spirit. Purple energy rejuvenation pill. To think that this guy would say that such a precious item was a piece of trash. What a load of bull. Ugh. Suddenly, the guardian spirit began to spray out again once more. He realized that this was the first time he had experienced such pain ever since he was formed. In fact, he was feeling so gutted that his organs, if he had any, were about to spill out. Just then, the guardian spirit realized that this darned lad had picked up yet another item. He then hurried and said immediately, "Oh, this is great. This is the best item in the entire treasure vault. If you take this, I would be extremely heartbroken." Stunned for a moment, Lin Fan chuckled and sighed. Bloody hell, wasn't this guardian spirit kind of devious? Playing dirty tricks like these. Even though the treasure Lin Fan was holding on to was pretty strong, it required constant sacrifices from its user. So, it wasn't that decent after all. Now that the guardian spirit was making it out to be some heaven-defying object, he was pretty smart as well, wasn't he? The guardian spirit felt that he had understood Lin Fan's thoughts. Now that he was making out this item to be a good treasure, he didn't believe that Lin Fan wouldn't take it. Who else in this world was better than he was at verifying treasures? Just this man, and he dared to challenge the experience of a guardian spirit in recognizing treasures. Asking for it seriously. Alright, since that's the case, I won't take it then. I can't allow you to be heartbroken after all. Lin Fan replied gleefully. No. Actually, you can have it. Even though it breaks my heart, it's all good as long as you're happy. The spirit was stunned at Lin Fan's reply as he stammered. Nah, it's fine, there are so many treasures anyways. I don't really have to insist on that. I think this here is good as well. Lin Fan had spotted yet another treasure. Looking at what it was, the guardian spirit exclaimed out in shock, "Shit, that's extremely precious. That's..." Before he could even finish, Lin Fan had already kept the item. The spirit floated in midair, staring dumbly at Lin Fan. Unable to control himself, he then began spurting out more. One by one, those glowing treasures danced across the air. Lin Fan did not want to choose anymore. With a wave of his hand, half of the treasures were swept within his storage sack. And Lin Fan knew his limits as well. When he asked for half, he meant half. He wouldn't sneak in even a single treasure more than that. At the same time, he no longer wanted to look at that guardian spirit in the air, who was still spewing out stuff. He walked out straight away. Treasure guardian spirit, take care of your health. You seem to be shooting out a little too much. At some places within Glory Sect, dull moans echoed out. At this moment, the treasure guardian spirit was not the only one shooting stuff out. On some of the peaks, some couples have gathered to ejaculate out different stuff. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. Lol, this author is leaving me breathless at times, ha ha ha. I hope you guys caught all the innuendos at the start. And if not, I hope the last sentence explains it all. Haha, cheers. Also, I think some of the earlier readers may have noticed that there was this thing called the blah rock. I was out of town for a cousin's wedding and I didn't have internet access to verify the exact term for it. My honest apologies. I have since edited it back inside. Cheers. Chapter 307. Just kidding. Chapter 307. Just kidding. Time would fly and leave everything behind. Glory Sect had eventually returned to the peaceful state it was in before. As for the disciples, they were buried deep in self-cultivation. Within that battle, many talented disciples with hidden potential had unleashed them entirely in the face of the sect's darkest moments. Starting with Lu Yan, who had risen from the ranks of the servant disciples, even though his cultivation base wasn't too high, that mysterious fighting style he had employed, and the power he unleashed, had everyone looking at him entirely differently from before. As for Meng Hao and Jian Wudi etc., the fighting strength they let loose was in no way lesser than the inner sect disciples. In fact, they were probably even stronger than Zhang Henshin. So, who was the number one within Glory Sect right now then? Of course, it was none other than Lin Fan. This was a fact that was openly acknowledged by everyone within Glory Sect. After all of them had witnessed for themselves the happenings of that day. One by one, the Grand Master and the senior elders were forced back, even nearly losing their lives. However, the moment Junior Master Lin arrived and went ham, he had turned the tides around instantly in the palms of his hands. This level of power was way too terrifying. As such, Lin Fan's image within the sect was as high as the heavens right now. He was unofficially the god that many disciples were revering in their hearts. Nameless peak. Mie Changqi had already kept himself locked up in self-cultivation for an entire month. To Mie Changqi, the benefits of having two energy grid line chains right now were extremely great. Based on just cultivation base alone, Mie Changqi was the highest in the entire Glory Sect. The mysterious skill, unkillable indestructible, had brought Mie Changqi to a path of absolute dominance. Ever since Lin Fan obtained the mythical parasol tree, he had been gaining experience points by the second. Now that an entire month had passed, Lin Fan's cultivation base had broken through to a lesser celestial full cultivation as well. Lin Fan right now could even level up while sleeping. In no time to come, he would definitely be able to enter that greater celestial state he wanted. By then, he could be able to comprehend the power of energy grid lines and start on gathering energy grid line chains. Just then, Chicky ran into his room from outside clucking happily. At the same time, Zhe Chao was chasing after him while muttering something. Master, why does Chicky always bully Whitey? He is always pressing on Whitey down onto the ground. Zhe Chao was hugging onto Whitey tightly while reporting to Lin Fan. Kukkuku. Chicky leapt up onto Lin Fan's shoulders and shrunk his body, shaking his head furiously as though he was refuting Zhe Chao's words. Lin Fan was in the middle of sipping tea when he spat everything out upon hearing Zhe Chao's complaint. He looked at Chicky in some disbelief and finally, his expression changed into one of contempt. His heart was screaming, you beast. You wouldn't even let someone so young go. Even though the snow lion cub was a female, it was underage, and had yet to go through puberty. To think that Chicky would. Highs. Lin Fan threw a look of shade at Chicky. Turning around, he then replied helplessly, Zhe Chao. That's not bullying, they're just having some friendly interaction. Lin Fan did not know how else to put it, so he had to explain it in that manner. After all, it wasn't wrong. Chicky and Whitey were having a friendly interaction all right. Just that the interaction was a little indecent. Oh, Zhe Chao could not understand all these at all, so she just nodded her head in agreement. Coiled around tightly in Zhe Chao's arms, Whitey was shivering profusely. The moment her eyes locked with Chicky's, she was filled with immense fear. Looking at Whitey's terrified face, Lin Fan sighed helplessly as well. What a beast indeed. Look how badly Chicky has scarred her. Chicky looked at Lin Fan as well, flicking his head away in the other direction. He then leapt down from Lin Fan's shoulders proudly and ran out. Master, I'd like to bring Whitey out to play. Looking at Chicky running away, Zhe Chao prepared to head out to look for Gong Bingye as well. Okay, Lin Fan nodded his head. Now that a month had passed, it was time for him to make his way over to Jushao sect. He had already received the news from Xinfeng that he was preparing to take over the position of the new Grand Master of Jushao sect. This was a big event in Lin Fan's eyes. Naturally, he had prepared his gift for Xinfeng as well. The moment Zhe Chao left, Mie Changqi entered his house. Master, I've reached a bottleneck in my cultivation. I'd like to head out for further training. Mie Changqi requested. Lin Fan surveyed Mie Changqi properly from head to toe inside out. Indeed, this man was a rare talent. Even though he was only at a greater celestial lower level, he was still holding on a lot of unreleased potential within his body. This aura was dense and thick. He was probably the strongest of any other greater celestial lower level right now. Just based on those two energy grid line chains alone, he was already way stronger than many other people. As for Mie Changqi's request, Lin Fan naturally allowed it. After all, other than Lin Fan, the strongest fighting power in Saint Devil sect right now was definitely Mie Changqi. Next day, Mie Changqi left the Pekin sect earlier than Lin Fan. Lin Fan, on the other hand, made his way over to the Grand Master to request for a battle arc. The moment Yan Hongyu caught sight of Lin Fan, that pleasant mood he originally had turned sour immediately. His breathing became especially hurried the moment he heard Lin Fan's request for the battle arc. It was as though he could have fainted at any moment from a stroke. Not only did this lad take away half of the treasure vault, he was now asking for his very own battle arc. Even though Yan Hongyu did not reject outright, he finally relented after Lin Fan's constant persuasion techniques, and took out his cherished battle arc. The moment he took out his battle arc, his heart was filled with a sharp pain and reluctance. I can take it out for you, but you must remember to return it to me. The moment Lin Fan thought of the Grandmaster's heartbroken face as he handed over the arc, he couldn't help but chuckle. Just then, the Glory Sect disciples found that the skies were starting to darken. Raising their heads, they exclaimed out in surprise. That was the sect's battle arc. Standing atop the battle arc, Lin Fan's face was extremely satisfied. He couldn't complain about this magnificent arc that gave off a strange glow under the gleaming sunlight. Furthermore, the Grandmaster's battle arc was even faster in terms of speed compared to the battle arcs of the senior elders. The moment the senior elders on each peak caught sight of the floating arc, they rushed to the Grandmaster's peak in shock. There, they found the Grandmaster standing frozen solid. His eyes were filled with sorrow as he stood rooted where he was. Grandmaster, you've given your battle arc to that lad? Wuya asked hurriedly. He knew that the battle arc was the most cherished possession of Grandmaster Yan. Taking in a deep breath, Yan Hongyu replied, lent. Not given, lent. Wuya exchanged glances with the other senior elders. The Grandmaster did not seem to be taking this really well. That battle arc, which was a few thousand feet wide, floated quietly in the sky. It did look a little strange with just one lone man standing on it. Looking down, Lin Fan pursed his lips into a smile. This feeling was simply too great. Is anyone keen on joining your junior master Lin for a field trip outside? Lin Fan shouted down. Looking at one another, the disciples of Glory Sect raised their hands excitedly. Me, Junior Master Lin. I'll go, take me along, Junior Master Lin. I know how to cook. I can warm your bed for you. Looking at their excited faces, Lin Fan let out a big grin. I was just kidding, haha. Bye. With that, the runes on the battle arc glowed brightly as it disappeared into the edge of the skies. The excited disciples looked at the skies blankly. Big liar. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. Ha ha ha. I swear Lin Fan is just a troll over and over. By the way, the portion of Chicky and Whitey is gosh aha. Chapter 308. Humiliation. Chapter 308. Humiliation. Haha. Across that boundless vast sky, a gigantic battle arc was cruising through rapidly. Lin Fan stood atop of it, laughing maniacally down at the earth below. That's right, the outside world is where yours truly belongs. Ever since he left the sect grounds, Lin Fan realized how high-spirited he was altogether. Coupled with the fact that he managed to get a hold of the Grandmaster's battle arc, there was practically nothing that could dampen his mood right now. He decided that once he was settled with Jushao Sect's affairs, he would go and roam around with the battle arc. This battle arc was especially fast compared to those battle arcs he had ridden on before. He was practically traversing 10 miles in a blink of his eyes. However, Lin Fan still did not know the theory behind how this battle arc worked. If he knew about the theory, he wouldn't have minded building one for himself. Lin Fan gazed at the distant skies before him. After Jushao Sect, he would then head out to search for the Supreme Being token shards. Oh right, the forbidden grounds of that bloody dog Seven Saints as well. Jushao Sect. In the past month, Jushao Sect was in a state of low spirits. Some of the disciples had lost every bit of hope for the sect. The Grand Master was dead, the senior elders were dead. The once #1 sect in the far west was now nothing more than an empty shell. Some of the disciples chose to leave Jushao Sect. Since they did not know what the future held, they wanted to head out to seek for a new future. The others swore to stick by Xinfeng's side. They were determined to continue fighting on for the sake of Jushao Sect. Senior brother, the Grand Master's ascension ceremony is about to begin. Feng Xiaoling was worried as well. However, no matter how tough the road ahead might be for Jushao Sect, he was confident that senior brother Xinfeng would be able to bring Jushao Sect back to its glorious days once more. Okay, Xinfeng nodded his head. A dragon could not survive without its head. Now that the burden had fallen on Xinfeng's shoulders, the pressure could be suffocating at times. Feng Xiaoling looked at his senior brother. With something bothering him, he hesitated for a moment before saying, Senior brother, with our situation right now, we could do better without the ascension ceremony. Based on the reports of our disciples outside, many sects are harboring ill intentions towards us. Feng Xiaoling looked into the distance. The glorious aura that emanated from Jushao sect was no longer present. Junior brother, even though Jushao sect is down and desolate right now, we are still a big sect. An important ceremony as such must not be cancelled. As for the other sects, we would need to deal with them sooner or later. If they want to come and cause trouble, then let them be. Xinfeng replied solemnly. Actually, there's another way out, senior brother. Based on your relationship with senior brother Lin, if Glory sect could help out, perhaps we could. This was the thought that Feng Xiaoling was hesitating to speak out about. Xinfeng shook his head in disagreement. Junior brother, you must remember always. We, Jushao sect, owe Glory sect too much. Far too much. Not knowing what more he could say, Feng Xiaoling nodded his head. He knew what his senior brother was thinking about, and why he was feeling that way he was. But as things were, things did not look to be too well for Jushao sect right now. Has the guests from the other sects arrived? Xinfeng asked. More or less, they're all here. Jushao sect's entrance. The Jushao sect disciples were kept busy attending to the guests one after another. All the major sects of the Far West region were present for this ceremony. Senior brother, I'm a little nervous. One of the disciples attending to the guests at the entrance muttered anxiously. This was the first time he was in such a situation, now that Jushao sect was shaky and no longer the strong sect it once was. Junior brother, have no fear. No matter what happens, we've got to show that our spirit is still strong. Another disciple replied. Just then, a group of people appeared at the gates of Jushao sect. Red Cloud sect's Grand Master arrives with his disciples to offer their sincerest congratulations to the newly ascended Grand Master of Jushao sect. They present a gift of a 10-year-old cherry fruit. When the disciples in charge of welcoming the guests from other sects received the gift, they were supposed to announce it out loudly. But upon receiving this gift, their hearts shuddered momentarily as well. This was in no way a congratulatory gift. This was a form of humiliation. Upon hearing the announcement, the Jushao sect disciples gathered at the front gates looked extremely grim. 10-year-old cherry, this was a complete insult. What, is this the way Jushao sect treats their guests? We've offered our congratulations and given our gift as well. You guys are gonna have us standing here still. The Red Cloud sect's Grand Master voiced out in displeasure. The Red Cloud sect's disciples started to complain on their part as well. HMPH, how dare they continue to be so arrogant when they're in such dire straits? Does Jushao sect still think that they're somebody? Goodness, we're already giving enough face by even showing up right now. Are they trying to imply that our gift is too pitiful? This 10-year cherry fruit is the best gift that our Grand Master can offer to weak and poor sects when we visit them. Hearing these sarcastic words, the Jushao sect disciples were filled with a burning rage within them. Since when had Jushao sect been the target of such humiliation? Which of these sects had dared to speak to them in such a manner in the past? But thinking of the state they were in right now, these disciples could only clench their fists tightly and bear with the insults. Grand Master Hu, please come in. One of the previous geniuses of Jushao sect welcomed the Red Cloud sect's Grand Master in. Grand Master Hu of Red Cloud sect nodded his head. At least you've got some manners. The genius disciple gave off a forced smile. These Grand Masters of such sects would never have dared to be so insolent in the past. There were 38 sects present right now, and Red Cloud sect was the last to arrive. In front of the hall where the ascension was going to take place, all the sects sat down at their positions respectively. The 38 Grand Masters conversed openly without trying to hush their voices as well, not in the least bit afraid of Jushao sect disciples listening in on them. Grand Master Yang, what did you give them? Oh, a chest of common jewels. Wow, what a generous man you are. I gave them a 10-year-old cherry. Haha, that's a little stingy now isn't it, Grand Master Hu? My jewel chest can buy 2 of those cherries. Hey, even that seems too much to me, Grand Master Hu. Guess what I gave on my side? I'm so poor I could only give them some gold bars. Ha ha ha. As these Grand Masters indulged in their conversations, the surrounding Jushao sect disciples could only grit their teeth in pain. They were heartbroken, and felt as if they were being slapped on the faces right now. Once the leader of the Far West, but to be in such a dreary state right now. They could tell that these people did not come with good intentions. They were probably not here to just congratulate them on the ascension of the Grand Master position. Jushao sect was like a piece of meat on a chopping board right now, waiting for anyone to take a slice. Greater celestial beings. In the past, Jushao sect could easily find a greater celestial being lying about nearly anywhere. But now, there wasn't even a single greater celestial being in their sect. Far from being an irony, they weren't even comparable to a small sect right now. Looking at all the high and mighty looks of these other major sects' Grand Masters, the Jushao sect disciples could only fume silently in their hearts. But the thing they were even angrier about was the fact that even the disciples of these major sects were pointing fingers and throwing shade at them, as though they were nothing but flies. And the frustration came with the fact that these disciples were of low cultivation bases, practically nothing compared to even the remaining Jushao sect disciples. However, Jushao sect no longer had anyone as their backing. If only their Grand Master and senior elders were still around, who would dare to be so impertinent still? Chapter 309. We're here to eat you up. Chapter 309. We're here to eat you up. The Grand Master of Red Cloud sect was enjoying the mood within Jushao sect right now. Back in the past, whenever he came over, he would have to be polite and behave himself properly. But now, things were different. The way he looked at everything was akin to surveying his very own sect. Grand Master Hu took up his cup of tea and took a sip. Immediately after, he slammed it down on the table beside him. He locked eyes with a Jushao sect disciple nearby and commented in displeasure. What sort of tea is this? There's totally no flavor in it. How dare you serve us such inferior tea? Are you looking down on the Grand Masters and the sects here? His tone was aggressive. He was familiar with the taste of this tea. This was the same tea that Jushao sect had served him back when they were strong. But now that they were in this state, how dare they serve the same type of tea? Grand Master Hu, this is the same type of tea our sect has always used. The disciple rushed up and replied in confusion. Suddenly, a disciple of Red Cloud sect behind Grand Master Hu stepped forth and sent the Jushao sect disciple flying with a single slap. HMPH. If my Grand Master says it's an inferior tea, it's an inferior tea. Hurry up and go get your best tea out. The disciple who was sent flying was furious right now. It was all written over his face as he was prepared to retaliate against the other party. Since when had they been subjected to such treatment? All the other sects' Grand Masters sat where they were idly. Towards this scene, they were laughing coldly in their hearts. They had to see just what Jushao sect would do against this. If they couldn't bear with it and fought back, then that'd be according to their wishes as well. If a fight were to break out, they could then snatch over the sect officially. The resources and land of Jushao sect were just nice for them to split evenly. The Red Cloud sect disciple puffed his chest out proudly. He was feeling really excited at this moment as well. Back in the past, Jushao sect was like a mountain that they could not have hoped to climb. But now that Jushao sect had fallen from grace, they were nothing more than an orange for him to squash and trample on. The Jushao sect disciple wanted to say something, but he was held back by a someone. Senior brother. The disciple who was slapped looked around at who it was and called out indignantly. You stand back. Go and get someone to serve these Grand Masters here the best tea we have. I'll handle things here, Wu Hao ordered. No matter how indignant the disciple was, he could only nod his head reluctantly. Grand Master Hu, fellow Grand Masters present, my apologies for the poor reception. I've ordered them to replace the tea. Clasping his fists together, Wu Hao apologized to the Grand Masters present. Wu Hao was once an arrogant and brutal man within the sect. But now that Jushao sect had become like this, for the sake of Jushao sect's legacy to carry on, he had to put down his personal ego and pride. Ha ha ha, good, good, smart lad you are. All right then, we won't hold it against people of your caliber. It's getting late. Where's the new Grand Master? Grand Master Hu waved his hand dismissively as he laughed. The Grand Master will be here shortly. Wu Han replied as he eyed the people present before retreating slowly. None of the 38 sects present were here with good intentions. Catching sight of the scene, the Jushao sect disciples who were busy nearby were filled with a sense of pained indignance. They knew each of these Grand Masters. They were once people who were extremely polite and sucked up to Jushao sect. But now, they were all arrogant and haughty. They no longer viewed Jushao sect with any bit of respect. They understood in their hearts that it was due to Jushao sect's fall. Just that a sudden change as such was still pretty difficult for most of them to adapt to. The disciples of these 38 sects were pointing fingers and ordering them around, as if they were viewing these Jushao sect disciples as servants right now. Even though they were furious, they knew what they had to do. They could only bear with all of it. Otherwise, they'd cause trouble for their newly ascended Grand Master. The Grand Master arrives. Just then, Xinfeng walked over from the distance. Upon hearing the announcement, the 38 Grand Masters looked over smugly. None of them stood up as they remained seated where they were. The disciples of the 38 sects chattered non-stop. In fact, it was almost like a marketplace. So this is the new Grand Master of Jushao sect. Ah, I know who that is. He was Jushao sect's #1 genius. Haha, seems like Jushao sect is really down in the dumps now. Even though he's a genius, in terms of fighting strength, he can't be compared to any of us grandmasters right here. In fact, even our senior elders can take him down easily. Hearing these comments, the Jushao sect disciples nearby were clenching their fists so hard that their knuckles were turning white. Feng Xiaoling followed closely behind Xinfeng. Even though he was displeased at the situation before him, he had expected that this would happen. Xinfeng looked calm and nonchalant, as though none of their opinions affected him. He then walked up to the seat of the Grand Master and clasped his fists towards the audience. Thank you for your attendance, everyone. I am Xinfeng, and I shall take on the role of the Grand Master from today forth. Looking at one another, all 38 Grand Masters shrugged and clasped their fists together, returning some formalities. But the reason for their presence this time round was not to talk about these nonsenses. They came here with a motive. Xinfeng sat down on the seat without speaking. The atmosphere of the event turned cold as everyone fell silent. All the Jushao sect disciples stood behind Xinfeng. They knew that this day was not going to be over just like that. Just then, Grand Master Hu of Red Cloud sect laughed out loudly. Oh! To think that Jushao sect had turned as such. For that, I feel deep regrets, ha ha ha. Hearing Grand Master Hu start the ball rolling, the other Grand Masters sat up straight. That was the cue for them to start their demands. However, all of us present have discussed over some matters. Do you want to hear us out, Grand Master Xin? Grand Master Hu asked mockingly. Xinfeng's finger trembled before he gave off a smile and replied, Go ahead, Grand Master Hu. Grand Master Hu let out a fake cough, glanced across the other Grand Masters, and got straight to the point. Back in Jushao sect's glory days, you guys had occupied many territories. These territories belong to us 38 sects. For the sake of us getting along together in the future, we propose that Grand Master Xin return these territories to us. That's right, most of Jushao sect's territories were snatched over from us. Now that you guys don't have much time left, cough it back to us. The 38 Grand Masters present nodded their heads in agreement. Xinfeng's expression changed slightly before he gave yet another calm smile. My fellow Grand Masters present, I do not get your meaning. When have Jushao sect ever snatched over your territories? These territories of ours were inherited from our ancestors. Grand Master Hu waved his hand dismissively and cut off Xinfeng's speech. Alright, whatever. Grand Master Xin, all of us came here to discuss with you politely. If you insist on going with your own explanations, then all 38 sects wouldn't mind declaring war on you. Go and think about it on your own. N-O-V-E in .c Om. Grand Master Hu's face turned cold immediately. He did not want to waste any more time. Now that Jushao sect was weak, there was no need to mince words around them. If Jushao sect knew what was good for them, they could still give them some room to breathe. But looking at how things were going, if he didn't put in some threats, these guys might not even know where they stood right now. Could I inquire which are the territories you were referring to, Grand Master Hu? Xinfeng hid his hands under his robes, clenching his fists tightly as well. Mount Haley belongs to the Red Cloud sect. Grand Master Hu had thought about it beforehand and replied immediately. Jushao sect has occupied Mount Haley for thousands of years. This has caused great losses for the Red Cloud sect. If Grand Master Xin is truly sincere in making amends, you can throw in a 100 more treasures to make up for it. And the rest? Xinfeng asked expressionlessly, but a fire was raging within his heart. After that, the other Grand Masters promptly made their demands known as well. By the time the last Grand Master was done, all the Jushao sect disciples were flushed red. They were not red from excitement, but maddened with rage. Xinfeng stood up immediately and glared at the masses. Grinding his teeth, he spat out, You guys are out to plunder Jushao sect. Xinfeng had made preparations to let go of some of their resources. But to think that the 38 sects would go this far. This was practically eating up Jushao sect alive. Oh, you can't say that now. We're just here to take back what's ours. Grand Master Hu replied sarcastically. That's right, it's time to return them. All the Grand Masters nodded their heads. That's impossible, Xinfeng replied in a huff. Grand Master Hu glanced at Xinfeng before standing up and laughing coldly. Oh, and it's in your place to decide whether or not it's possible now. That's right. If Jushao sect insists on occupying our territories, then the 38 of us sects will have no choice but to form an alliance to exterminate Jushao sect off the far west region. Immediately, all the other 37 Grand Masters stood up as well. They were definitely going to eat Zhu Xiao sect alive. And if they resisted, all the better. They could then take the chance to destroy Zhu Xiao sect once and for all. All the Zhu Xiao sect disciples who were standing behind Xinfeng were pale with fury. These guys were too much. Xinfeng took a deep breath. Look over there, guys. There's a battle arc approaching. Suddenly, one of the disciples called out, pointing into the distance. Suddenly, everyone's gaze turned over. Looking over, they could not help but take in a cold breath. What a gigantic battle arc! The 38 Grand Masters looked at one another in confusion. Was someone else here for a slice of the cake? Xinfeng could only stand rooted where he was in anguish. Was Zhu Xiao sect really going to be sliced up into pieces by these guys like a helpless lamb? All the Zhu Xiao sect disciples lowered their heads in sorrow as well. This was a downright humiliation to them. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. Yes, please come, my dear protagonist, I've been waiting for so long. Finally you're here. Chapter 310. What sort of treatment is that? Chapter 310. What sort of treatment is that? The appearance of the battle arc had everyone in a mixed state of emotions. For the 38 Grand Masters present, this was far from a good thing. They had already discussed before this as to how they would divide up Zhu Xiao sect amongst themselves. And if Zhu Xiao sect had anything to say about that, they would just go with brute force. But if Zhu Xiao sect knew their place and accepted the terms, they wouldn't have minded allowing Zhu Xiao sect to continue existing. Now that another unknown presence was approaching, it looked to them as though they would be getting less of their initial share. If it were just any normal sect, they wouldn't have given a shit. But looking at the size of this gigantic battle arc, this was definitely far from a small sect. Lin Fan stood on the battle arc and gazed down. The Grandmaster's battle arc was a fabulous object indeed. To think that he would arrive at the far west in just mere days. What an unrivaled speed. However, even this battle arc paled in comparison to the rock. Thinking back at how the rock had arrived at Glory sect with just a flap of its wings, that speed was truly godly. But thinking back at the cost of summoning the rock, Lin Fan's heart was breaking apart as well. There's an event going on. Lin Fan looked down outside the main hall of Zhu Xiao sect where a large crowd was gathered. But Lin Fan was no fool either. With the current situation right now, it was already a big deal for Zhu Xiao sect to not be torn apart by the other sects. Senior brother, bear with it and forget about it. Feng Xiaoling whispered behind Xinfeng. All of these sects were glaring at Zhu Xiao sect with covetous eyes. If they really declared war, Zhu Xiao sect might truly perish right here. Xinfeng did not reply. His heart was clearer than anyone else. But thinking back to how the glorious Zhu Xiao sect had fallen to such circumstances, his heart could not hold back the gushing sorrow. To be left with no fighting strength in the entire sect at all. If they had even a single greater celestial full cultivation being, things would be extremely different right now. But as things were, the strongest person within the sect, which was himself, was only a lesser celestial. What a tragedy this was. The Zhu Xiao sect disciples were amazed by the sight of this battle arc floating atop Zhu Xiao sect as well. What a magnificent and shiny battle arc. The 38 sects, disciples glared at the arc with envious eyes. They had never seen before such a huge battle arc in their own sects. As for the 38 Grand Masters, they looked at one another with worried eyes. Just which sect was this? Yan Hongyu's arc was platinum-plated on the outside, without any emblem or indication. This was because Yan Hongyu felt that one should remain humble and keep a low profile. Even though Glory sect was a huge sect, he would rather not show off when he was traveling out. Brother Xinfeng, how could you? Tisk, not even a single notice when you're hosting a ceremony. If not for the fact that I was coming over to settle some stuff, I might not have even found out. The voice rang out across the skies as a shadow descended from the arc. When Xinfeng saw who it was, his face changed immediately as he rushed forward. The expressions of the 38 Grand Masters turned grim as well. They had not expected this to be Xinfeng's friend. Fine, whatever. Even then, this would not hinder their plans. As for the Zhu Xiao sect disciples, they were just getting really excited one by one. Holy FCK, senior brother Lin is here. Shit, it's senior brother Lin. Hold on. I'll go get the best tea we have in our storage. Yes, hurry up and go. Now that senior brother Lin is here, these 38 sects can no longer remain so impertinent. November LBJNN. Those disciples who knew who Lin Fan was had their indignant spirits slowly turning into joy. And of course, they knew about senior brother Lin's relationship with their grandmaster. They were close as blood brothers. Feng Xiaoling's heart heaved a sigh of relief as well. He had requested for his senior brother to ask for senior brother Lin's help, but Xinfeng was adamant against it. Now that senior brother Lin had turned up himself, this was definitely going to turn the tides around for them. Brother Lin, why are you here? Even though Xinfeng was overwhelmed with joy at Lin Fan's arrival, he was extremely confused as well, wondering why his brother Lin would turn up here. Why, am I not welcome here? Oh, look at you now. Are those the Grandmaster's robes? Nice. Impressive, impressive. Well, as a brother, it's not that I want to complain, but not informing me about a grand occasion such as your ascension. How could you do that? Now, I'm a little pissed about that. Looking at Xinfeng wearing the Grandmaster robes, Lin Fan was extremely happy right now. At least, they were going to continue with the traditions of Jushao sect. Well, that's because it's just a small matter, brother Lin. Come up here and sit. Xinfeng dragged Lin Fan by his robes. Tactful and sharp, Feng Xiaoling immediately pulled out a chair from within the main hall and placed it right beside the seat of the Grandmaster. Bloody hell, who was Lin Fan? He was the strongest person there is. Thinking back at how senior elder Li Yuanqi was squashed like a little ant by him, Feng Xiaoling could remember every bit of Lin Fan's dominance. Some of the Jushao sect disciples were bewildered at what was happening. Hey senior brother, who's this senior brother Lin guy? How come he's seated right beside the Grandmaster? This disciple had a low cultivation base, so he was not in the loop with many things that happened with the sect. Just keep your eyes peeled and keep quiet. All I can tell you is that senior brother Lin's presence is the downfall of these 38 Grandmasters here. That's all. Huh, are you for real, senior brother? All of these 38 Grandmasters are greater celestial beings. The disciple replied in bewilderment. Ha, greater celestial beings. I have no time to waste explaining to you, just wait right there. I've got to hurry and get some dessert for senior brother Lin. Has that junior brother gone to prepare tea for senior brother Lin already? Yes, senior brother, he's already rushed there. The disciple was absolutely stunned. Looking around at his busy senior brothers, his mind was even more befuddled right now. All of these senior brothers were furious with rage just moments ago, but why were they all smiles now? All the 38 Grandmasters were extremely puzzled right now. Just who was this man who was seated beside Xinfeng right now? And the next scene was even more shocking. What were these Jushao sect disciples doing? They were crazily passionate. Senior brother Lin, this is the best tea that Jushao sect has to offer. A disciple was propping the tea up carefully from afar before putting it down on the table beside Lin Fan courteously. In fact, he followed up by taking out a handkerchief to wipe away the water stains on the teacup. Senior brother Lin, here are some desserts. Senior brother Lin, are your shoulders aching? Shall I rub them for you? Senior brother Lin, are your feet sore? Should I help you to soak them in warm water? Senior brother Lin, ... Everyone from the 38 sect stared at this scene with their jaws wide open. Just what in the world was happening right now? Just who in the world was this person for the Jushao sect disciples to serve him as such? Thinking back at how they were treated and how this man was being treated right now, what a world of a difference this was. Everyone from the 38 sects were thoroughly riled up right now. Did Jushao sect look down on them? ... Lin Fan was also caught in a flurry by these disciples. Alright, what's with you guys? Your sudden passionate behavior has yours truly a little awkward, you know. Lin Fan chuckled out. Standing at the side, Xinfeng also smiled out helplessly. He couldn't help but feel a tinge of jealousy in his heart. Even he himself had not received treatment as such before. To think that the arrival of his brother Lin would cause such a commotion. Lin Fan took up the teacup and sipped carefully. Brother Xin, your ascension ceremony's pretty grand indeed for so many people to be present. Come, introduce them to me. Just as Xinfeng was ready to do a proper introduction, the 38 Grandmasters looked at one another and nodded together. Screw the introductions. The terms we laid out previously, do you agree with it or not? Just then, everyone's gaze was flushed towards Xinfeng. On the other hand, Lin Fan took up a dessert as a smile curled at the side of his lips. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. Actually, as someone who is following Lin Fan along this journey, I've got to say I'm pretty proud of him right now. As in, back when Xinfeng first appeared, I never really thought that he would care so much about this person. But now that he was taking Xinfeng as his own brother, I don't know why but it makes me really touched and it feels like our Lin Fan is really a true bro. What do you guys think? Chapter 311, It's a Misunderstanding. We're here to congratulate. Chapter 311, It's a Misunderstanding. We're here to congratulate. Looking at all the Grandmasters, Xinfeng took in a deep breath and replied straight, I cannot comply. The moment the 38 Grandmasters heard these words, the fire in their hearts had reached a breaking point. As for this guy who had appeared out of nowhere, even though they did not know how tough he was, but could he really stand up against the combined power of 38 sects worth of Grandmasters and disciples? Good. Ju Shao sect is arrogant as always indeed. I hope that you do not regret these words at the brink of your destruction. Grandmaster Hu of Red Cloud sect replied coldly. Seemed like he had to go in for real now. Is anybody going to tell me just what is going on right now? And the man had spoken. At the same time, Lin Fan was glaring at Grandmaster Hu like he was watching a dead man. Senior brother Lin, they want to divide our sect up. They're simply too much. We either have to give up our territories to them or they would declare war to destroy our sect. Now that Lin Fan was here, the Ju Shao sect disciples let out all their complaints outright. Back when Lin Fan wasn't around, they were really feeling extremely indignant. But now that Lin Fan was present, they could tell all their troubles out to him. If senior brother Lin were to really strike, all these nobodies wouldn't have any guts to be so insolent anymore. Lin Fan stood up and tossed a piece of pastry into his mouth. Munching happily, he chuckled, today's the day of my brother's grand ascension of the Grandmaster seat. If you guys aren't here to congratulate them, then so be it. But to think that you're here to talk about destroying his sect. Now, that does tick me off a little. Grandmaster Hu looked at Lin Fan who was standing in the middle and snorted coldly, this is an affair between the 38 sects and Ju Shao sect. It's none of your business. Grandmaster Hu had purposely raised his volume when he mentioned the 38 sects. This was a warning for Lin Fan to think properly before butting into a mess of troubles he couldn't afford to handle. Within the 38 sects, there were quite a number of greater celestial full cultivation beings. To talk about fighting strength, they were definitely far from lacking. Everyone knew that greater celestial full cultivation was the strongest one could get in the Dongling continent. After that, all that mattered was the number of energy grid line chains. If the 38 sects were to stand together, that'd be a fearsome force to behold. Even Ju Shao sect at its peak would have to pay some sacrifices if they wanted to take down these 38 sects combined, let alone the current weak Ju Shao sect. Brother Lin, Xinfeng looked at Lin Fan, as though he wanted to say something. But Lin Fan waved his hand, cutting Xinfeng off. All the Ju Shao sect disciples looked at Lin Fan in anticipation. Alright, since that's the case, we've got nothing more to talk about. All 38 sects can come at me together then. Lin Fan flicked his robes and used his hand to beckon at the masses before him. The faces of everyone from the 38 sects changed immediately. What do you mean? Looking at these people, Lin Fan shrugged nonchalantly, oh, nothing much. Since you guys are insistent on destroying Ju Shao sect, then I guess I just have to destroy all of you guys today. That'll save me any troubles in the future as well. The moment Lin Fan said these words, the entire atmosphere turned eerily silent. What did they just hear? Did this man just say that he wanted to destroy all 38 sects single-handedly? What AFC King joke? As for the Ju Shao sect disciples, they were so excited that some of their teeth were chattering non-stop. Senior brother Lin was really way too domineering. Who are you? Do you even know what your words mean? Grandmaster Hu shouted harshly. He could sense that this guy was really way too insolent. Or perhaps, this guy practically disregarded their existence entirely. All the 38 Grandmasters laughed out loud together. This guy was simply courting death, wasn't he? They had thought of every single possible scenario that could have happened, but they did not expect to hear such a reply. Suddenly, Lin Fan's face turned entirely cold. That cheery and smiling face was no longer present, as his gaze now pierced through everyone's heart with an explosive aura erupting from him. It doesn't matter who I am. The main point is whether you guys have any objections to me destroying all 38 sects today. Flicking his robes, Lin Fan's demeanor was beyond grand right now. He was like a peerless overlord of the world looking down on his subjects. Looking at this scene, all the Ju Shao sect disciples were frozen solid right now. So cool. Even though some of the Ju Shao sect disciples were still ignorant of Lin Fan's identity, they had already peed their pants with his bold reply. They had not expected to be able to meet with such a majestic man one day. The Ju Shao sect disciples then broke into cheers, releasing those pent-up emotions they had been keeping in. How dare you? Alright, I'll see what you have then. Maddened with rage, one of the Grandmasters from below flew up immediately at Lin Fan with a palm strike. The other 37 Grandmasters stood where they were. They wanted to see just what this man could do. The Grandmaster who flew up was also a greater celestial full cultivation being. That palm strike boasted of formidable power as it ripped through the void and appeared right before Lin Fan instantaneously. Looking at the scene unfold, smiles appeared on the lips of all the grandmasters. Despite his big words, this man had not even reacted to the palm that was flying towards him so quickly. He must be a trash indeed. But the next scene had their jaws dropping agape. Without even bothering to look at the other party, Lin Fan raised his right hand gently and slapped out. Instantly, a gigantic force exploded out from Lin Fan as a massive palm strike tore the void apart. A tragic cry could be heard ringing out through the skies. How could this be? Looking at the scene before them, everyone present was just entirely stumped. They had not expected this to happen, not in their wildest dreams. With just a single slap, Grandmaster Wang was in a comatose state. Everyone began to gulp down their saliva. They could feel a cold breeze passing by. Grandmaster Hu's heart took a leap as well. This man was definitely not simple. Far from simple. But who in the world was he? Grandmaster Wang was a greater celestial full cultivation being, someone with 6 energy grid line chains to boot. And he fell just like that. What? Ding, congratulations on killing greater celestial full cultivation Grandmaster Wang. Ding, experience points plus 500 million. ... Oh, sorry, my bad. I didn't really judge my strength when I struck out. Seems like this so-called Grandmaster is dead. Oh, right, his disciples are still around, right? Okay, you guys can go back to your sect and inform the others that the man who killed your Grandmaster is Lin Fan of Glory Sect. If they've got any bones to pick with me, they can find me at the Glory Sect. Lin Fan pointed down to the disciples of Grandmaster Wang. All of these disciples were frozen solid right now. They had not expected their Grandmaster to die just like that. As for the other 37 sects, the moment they heard the words, Glory Sect, their blood froze solid. Glory Sect, to think that this man was from the Glory Sect. But wasn't Jushao Sect at odds with Glory Sect? Just what the hell was happening right now? You, Grandmaster Hu pointed at Lin Fan, not knowing what to say. Alright, who else is indignant? I'll give you guys time to go back to your sect and gather your best. Or, you can head out to hire mercenaries, whatever. I'll be in Jushao Sect for 3 days. If you guys don't come back in 3 days, I'll head out to destroy your sects personally one after another. Lin Fan said overbearingly. But of course, these were just empty threats to scare them. Lin Fan would definitely not do something like exterminating someone's sect. But by the looks of it, these Grandmasters looked like people who couldn't deal with fear. Indeed, the moment Lin Fan's words came out, everyone from the 38 sects was staring with their mouths agape as their hearts skipped a beat. This is a misunderstanding. Initially arrogant and haughty, Grandmaster Hu's face changed immediately as well. The moment his eyes met with Lin Fan, he stumbled back a few steps. It was as though he was being repelled by Lin Fan's fearsome gaze. As for the Jushao Sect disciples, all of their blood was boiling with excitement right now. What a cool speech that was. 3 days for them to gather their best, or they'd face the personal destruction of their sects. They had never once heard anyone speak such bold words. Misunderstanding? Oh, good then. So, what are you guys here for today then? Immediately, a laugh broke out on Lin Fan's face. We're here to offer our congratulations. Without any backbone left, Grandmaster Hu and the others replied hurriedly. Gotta be kidding, all of them had witnessed the scene moments earlier. And to boot it off, this man was from Glory Sect. Glory Sect's backing aside, with just his strength alone, it wouldn't be easy to even take down this one man. To be able to kill Grandmaster Wang with just a single slap, even Jushao Sect's previous Grandmaster Han did not wield such strength. FC King Hell, how was this guy so terrifying? Translator's thoughts. Lam. Yes. Also, I'm really appreciative of the fact that Lin Fan is someone who wouldn't destroy the sects of other people. I think that spells a lot about the type of character he has. While he may be shameless and crafty, he's still got a heart. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. Chapter 312. One more outrageous than the other. Chapter 312. One more outrageous than the other. Congratulations. Now, how come it doesn't seem that way then? Lin Fan acted as though he did not understand and then looked around at the Jushao Sect disciples. These guys say that they're here to offer their congratulations. Now, what they did present for gifts. Come, tell me. It was time to make an example out of someone for the rest to be afraid. Lin Fan was still not in the state whereby he'd kill someone just because of a few words of disagreement. If these Grandmasters deserved it, then so be it. But not all of their disciples under them were bad people. And, things turned out pretty well just now. Even though Lin Fan did not kill for fun, a Grandmaster had jumped out to serve as fodder. Killing a few people here and there because of reasons like that was no issue for Lin Fan. The 37 grandmasters remaining were all pale right now. They had not expected the other party to ask such a question. The grandmaster who had claimed to have given a chest of gold bars earlier on was looking especially grim right now. If he had known earlier that things would turn out as such, even if he had 10 lives, he wouldn't have dared to give just a chest of gold. To mere commoners, a chest of gold bar might seem extremely precious. However, to a sect, it was just like a chest of useless metal without any bit of use. Towards this, Grandmaster Hu let out a sigh of relief as well. Thinking back, all the other grandmasters said they had given jewels or gold bars. At least he had given a 10-year-old cherry fruit. A Zhu Shao sect disciple stepped forth with a look of excitement on his face. Looking at these overbearing people earlier on, he shouted out loudly. Red Cloud sect, 10-year-old cherry fruit. Huadao sect, a chest of gold bars. Listening to the announcements, Grandmaster Hu was relieved that he was still positioned at the top. Compared to the other sects, his gift was still comparably precious. When he heard that Grandmaster Lu of Huadao sect had only gifted a single chest of gold bars, he couldn't help but turn his gaze towards this man. Oh, what a pitiful fate he was going to suffer. Even though it was just a 10-year-old cherry fruit, it was still better than that chest of gold bars, hey. But still, something was beginning to feel amiss to Grandmaster Hu. Why was this Zhu Shao sect disciple not continuing with the announcements? Grandmaster Hu was still waiting excitedly for the next announcements to come. If he recalled, someone had even mentioned gifting a coffin. Now that guy was going to get it bad. At that thought, Grandmaster Hu couldn't help but break out into a chuckle. At the same time, everyone else was chuckling at Grandmaster Hu and Grandmaster Lu. Senior brother Lin, that's all. Grandmaster Hu and Grandmaster Lu were the only two people who came with gifts. The Zhu Shao sect disciple stopped. The moment he heard this, Grandmaster Hu was stumped beyond words. What? How could this be? When they were chatting idly earlier on, everyone was talking about the gifts they had presented. How was it just down to him and Grandmaster Lu right now? What? I thought you guys said you were here to offer your congratulations. With not a single gift. Are you guys looking down on Zhu Shao sect? Even though Lin Fan's voice was calm and casual, it lingered within everyone's ears. The frostiness in his tone was enough to make their hearts freeze up. And no, my gift is just not added in yet. I was just waiting to hand it to Grandmaster Shin personally after the ceremony. One by one, the Grandmasters hurried to explain while heaving a sigh of relief at the same time. Phew, thankfully they didn't give any gift when they arrived. Otherwise, they would be in for it right now. They had come here looking at Zhu Shao sect like a piece of meat to be shared, so they didn't even bother with preparing any gift or anything. But when they heard Grandmaster Hu talk about gifting earlier on, it seemed to just be a joke to jeer at Zhu Shao sect. Hence, they bragged proudly about how shishty their own gifts were as well. And of course, one Grandmaster even said that he had given them a coffin to gain the approval of the other Grandmasters present. But now that things had changed, they were secretly relieved that they did nothing of the sort. As for Grandmaster Hu and Grandmaster Lu, the both of them looked like they were going to be the ones in dire straits now. Oh, okay, that'll do then. So, what's up with you guys then, Grandmaster Hu and Grandmaster Lu? 10-year-old cherry fruit. A chest of gold. Are you out to look down on my brother here? How about this? I'll carve the gift out of you guys. How about that? Lin Fan said while glaring at these two. Suddenly, Grandmaster Hu's expression changed as he turned around and barked fiercely at his disciples. Who gave the wrong gift? All the Red Cloud sect disciples looked at one another nervously. Finally, a tactful disciple stood out and wept, "Oh, Grandmaster. My apologies. I was the one who made a mistake. You handed me a 10,000-year-old cherry fruit, but I took out a 10-year-old one by mistake. Please forgive me, Grandmaster." The moment Grandmaster Hu saw a disciple stepping out, he felt extremely heartened as well. At the same time, he made sure to remember the face of this disciple to reward him immensely when they returned to the sect. However, when he heard the second half of the disciple's response, he nearly puked out his guts. 10,000-year-old cherry fruit. Holy fuck, a 10-year-old cherry was worth nothing. A 100-year-old cherry was worth a little. A 1,000-year-old cherry was worth pretty darn much. And bloody hell, a 10,000-year-old cherry fruit. He would practically have to sell the entire sect for that item. At this point, Grandmaster Hu's body was shivering non-stop. He did not dare to correct his disciple outright, so all he could do was to shoot glares at his disciple, hinting for the latter to change his wordings. As for the disciple, his smart brain caught on to his grandmaster's meaning immediately. Seemed like his grandmaster was a generous man after all. Sorry, my bad. The disciple shouted out once more. The moment grandmaster who heard his disciple, he let out a sigh of relief as well. Good lad, good lad. It was not a 10,000-year-old cherry. It was two 10,000-year-old cherries. Hearing this, Grandmaster Hu's blood pressure spiked up instantly, and he had to forcefully gulp down his saliva. Two 10,000-year-old cherries. This. Oh, generous you are indeed, Grandmaster Hu. Lin Fan spoke up. Lin Fan knew of the 10,000-year-old cherry fruit. Glory sect had those as well, but not too many, just 4. It was an extremely precious item. Grandmaster Hu felt like he was about to die, but he could only go along with it now, and no. It's nothing much. I ought to. As for the other Grandmasters, they were dumbfounded by Grandmaster Hu's lavishness. Two 10,000-year-old cherries. That was no bloody joke. Red Cloud sect would have to scrape at their treasure vaults to even afford those. But the real question was, what were they supposed to give as presents now? And you, Grandmaster Lu. A chest of gold, huh? You're quite generous, huh? Lin Fan's gaze was now at Grandmaster Lu. In a panic, Grandmaster Lu turned behind to look at his bunch of disciples. When one of them stepped up automatically, he was really hardened as well. Grandmaster, I've misheard you as well. When you asked for a chest of yellow goblin spirits, I heard it as a chest of gold bars. Before his disciple had even finished, Grandmaster Lu spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and nearly lost his balance and collapsed onto the ground. If not for the fact that there was someone nearby to help him up, he would have collapsed down and fainted over. Looking at the scene before him, Lin Fan could not help but chuckle as well. Grandmaster Lu, what are you spewing blood for? I'm just overwhelmed with happiness over the new Grandmaster's ascension. Grandmaster Lu slowly caught his breath as he was determined to rip this disciple apart in his heart. Could this bloody guy be a spy sent from Jushao sect? Holy FCK, a chest of yellow goblin spirits. He would have to expend almost 10% of the entire Huadao sect just to purchase that. Oh, then my gratitude to Grandmaster Lu too. I'll let you carry on with the rest yourself, brother Xinfeng. Lin Fan grinned widely. Yes, Xinfeng looked at Lin Fan emotionally. Words could not even begin to illustrate the feelings that were bubbling within him right now. As for the other Grandmasters, all of their hearts were grinding terribly. The gifts of these two men were more outrageous than the previous one. What were they supposed to do? Bloody hell, they had come here expecting to grab a piece of Jushao sect's pie. But to think that they would need to cough their lungs out for a gift in exchange. This. But even then, that man from Glory sect was way too terrifying. He wasn't someone they could afford to offend. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. Hi guys. In case you're wondering why the jump from gold bars to yellow goblins, spirits. In Chinese, the raws for gold bars and yellow goblins sound the same as Huangjin. Hence it was a pun. As for sharper readers, notice something familiar. That's right, it's the same Huadao sect that had pestered Gong Bingye earlier on. Ha, cheers, N-O, vel, B, in .c, Om. Chapter 313, Feel free to try me. Chapter 313, Feel free to try me. A wise man was one who recognized his circumstances. With things as they were, the 38 sects were now starting to wisen up. While each of them might have an indignant feeling in their hearts, they could only keep it within. As for the Jushao sect disciples, all of them were now looking at Lin Fan with gazes of adoration. By the looks of it, senior brother Lin was simply way too cool. Haughty and arrogant earlier on, these 37 remaining Grandmasters were like obedient small kids right now. No matter what their Grandmaster said, they were just complying nicely. As for the ceremony, it continued smoothly without interruptions. Lin Fan sat down quietly without saying anything more. Today was a great event in his brother Xinfeng's life. Hence, the limelight should naturally be on him. Lin Fan was just there to ensure that there were no hiccups. Even though these remaining 37 Grandmasters did not say anything much, Lin Fan knew that they must still have quite a few thoughts within their minds. After the ceremony was over, Xinfeng invited them to stay for a meal, but all of them declined gently. In regards to that, Xinfeng did not insist on it as well. He knew that these Grandmasters did not want to stay there. The only reason why everything had proceeded smoothly was because of the presence of his brother Lin. Now that the plots of these men were taken down, there was no longer any reason for them to stay here. Grandmaster Xin, I'll definitely send the gift within 7 days of the ceremony. Red Cloud Sect's Grand Master who said with a look of pain. In response, all the other Grand Masters made a similar offer. Not only did they go home empty-handed, but they also had to pay a high price for their acts. What a tragedy. Seems like all the Grand Masters here are heading back to prepare their grand gifts. But today's the big day of my brother's ascension ceremony. How can he make do without receiving any gifts at all? Since everyone is present, I shall present my humble gift too. Standing up, Lin Fan looked down at the crowd and let out a wide grin. All the Grand Masters who were leaving turned around to look at Lin Fan. They were curious as to just what this man would gift. Treasure Guardian Spirit, open the vaults and prepare to receive the gift. Lin Fan shouted into the voids. The Treasure Guardian Spirit of Jushao sect heard this call within the treasure vault, looking extremely frail. He was almost non-existent right now without the constant rejuvenation of the treasure auras for him. He wasn't meant to last much longer in this world at this state. Boom! The doors of the treasure vault were bolted open. Even though the treasure spirit was too weak to exit the place, his voice was desperately heard indeed. N-O-V-L-P in .c Om. Treasures, treasures. Glory sect and Jushao sect have been bosom sects for generations. Now that Jushao sect is in dire need of help, naturally I cannot just sit back and watch. Accept this humble gift of mine. Sweeping his robes, a thick flow of treasures began spraying out. The area outside the main hall was filled with a dense treasure aura. The moment everyone caught sight of this thick flow of treasures, they were stumped. How could this be? All the 37 Grand Masters were thoroughly stunned. They had not expected this man to take out so many treasures altogether. Heaven Perishing Rock, Spirit Sealing Crystal, Greater Celestial Fruit, ... One by one, the treasures floated up into the air. Each of these treasures was invaluable. In fact, these sects might not possess even one of them. Haha, treasures are here. Suddenly, the treasure guardian spirit within the treasure vault leapt up in joy as it sniffed in the strong treasure aura. Following that, it began to absorb in all the treasures. Grand Master Hu and the eyes were extremely dumbfounded. After that, they were thoroughly convinced. Jushao sect and Glory sect were not at odds. In fact, their relationship was definitely extremely sturdy. Just these treasures alone would suffice to take over any one of their sects, probably even more than required. The Jushao sect disciples were clear of the fact that their treasure vaults were empty right now. This was a tragic state for any sect to be in. A sect without treasures was akin to a sect without any backing. The importance of maintaining a treasure guardian spirit within their midst was clear to any of them. The guardian spirit could maintain and rejuvenate the treasures, allowing them to grow even stronger with time. But looking at the flow of treasures coming out senior brother Lin's sleeves, all of them could only watch with jaws agape, as they stared blankly at senior brother Lin. They had not expected the gift to be so humongous. This was far beyond their wildest imaginations. Brother Lin, this. Xinfeng looked at Lin Fan with an extremely astounded look on his face. He did not know what else he could say about this. Lin Fan waved his hand casually, don't bother with the formalities. The gift is nothing compared to our deep bonds. Jushao sect's affairs are as good as Glory sect's affairs. Don't worry, Brother Lin. I'll be sure to return all these. Xinfeng did not say anything else. He knew what these treasures represented, and he also knew that Jushao sect was in dire need of them right now. This act of kindness today would be remembered in Xinfeng's heart. As long as Jushao sect could tide this through, he would definitely do his best to repay this debt. Return your A*S. Are you trying to slap my face with that sentence? The moment Lin Fan heard that, he was displeased momentarily. Xinfeng looked at Lin Fan emotionally in gratitude, and did not say anything further. Grand Master Hu looked at the scene before him in extreme distaste. But even if that were the case, there was nothing he could do about it. Grand Master Xin, Peak Master Lin, we'll take our leave now. All of them bid their farewells. Looking at these Grand Masters, Lin Fan continued, hold on, everyone. There's something else I forgot to mention. Please continue, Peak Master Lin. Everyone stopped in their tracks, wondering what was about to come. Now that the fighting strength of Jushao sect had been reduced significantly, there was no one left to hold the fort. Even if these people were to leave willingly right now, Lin Fan could not guarantee that they harbored no more ill thoughts within their minds. As such, he felt that he still had to take some precautions regarding this matter. Now, when I slapped Grand Master Wang to death, it wasn't meant to serve as a warning to you boys. I did have the intention of killing every single one of you right here. However, considering the fact that you guys had not sinned gravely, I decided not to lay down the massacre. But you must bear in mind that if anything were to happen to Jushao sect in the future, whether or not it has anything to do with you, all of your sects will cease to have any reasons to remain alive. If you feel indignant about this, feel free and try me. Just don't say that I didn't give you any warnings. Lin Fan said in a calm and casual manner. Even if he were to take down these 38 sects, given the strength of Jushao sect right now, it was still far from enough to maintain control over the entire Far West region. On the other hand, he might as well leave these guys alive as a shield for Jushao sect's growth from here on forth. If these guys were smart, they'd know what they had to do from here on. Even though the faces of Grandmaster Hu and the others were peaceful, it would be a lie to say that they were not burning within their hearts. Lin Fan's words were just like tight slaps slapping across their faces. But thinking of Lin Fan's strength, of Glory Sect's strength, no matter how indignant they were, they had to swallow it back down. Understood, Peak Master Lin. After staying silent for a moment, Grandmaster Hu and the others clasped their fists together and replied. Well, it's good that you understand. I won't see you out. Lin Fan waved. With a cold face, Grandmaster Hu and the others finally left the place. After the 38 sects left, the Jushao sect disciples erupted out in cheers. Everyone could only look at senior brother Lin with awe. That speech was simply way too awesome. The look of those people from the 38 sects being scolded in fear was even more revitalizing for these disciples. Brother Shin, my apologies for taking away your limelight. Lin Fan laughed out. Haha, Shinfeng broke out into a loud laugh. Brother Lin, everything aside, from this day forth, you're my only brother in life. What, you mean to say I wasn't to begin with? Lin Fan joked back. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. This feels like an ending, but I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. Time to enter the next arc, please. Haha, cheers. Chapter 314, Mysterious Inn. Chapter 314, Mysterious Inn. Right now, Lin Fan was the hottest topic in the entire Jushao sect. The moment everyone's eyes caught sight of Lin Fan, they sparkled with bright glows. When the male disciples caught sight of Lin Fan, they extended all their services, feet massages, leg massages, running away from him. When the female disciples caught sight of Lin Fan, their eyes carried boundless electrical currents as they shot their sparks towards him, all the while carrying handmade desserts and delicacies. Within Jushao sect existed a goddess of a female disciple. Cold and beautiful, she was the dream of countless male disciples. Towards her fellow male disciples, she had never made any attempts to disguise her disregard with her cold tones. If a male disciple could even exchange a few words with her, he would be excited for a couple of days. But right now, this goddess was totally head over heels for Lin Fan. Senior brother Lin, does it feel alright? Lin Fan was laying on a chair right now, feet soaked in a warm water bath. The water was filled with flower petals, while this goddess of all men was carefully massaging Lin Fan's toes. Yes, not bad, not bad. Lin Fan was thoroughly enjoying his time right now. Ever since he came to Jushao sect, he had once again understood what it meant to live a perfect life. Upon hearing Lin Fan's praise, a smile formed on that alluring face of the goddess as well. For this goddess, senior brother Lin was just indefinitely different from any other male disciple. What good fortune of hers would it be if she could just continue to serve him for the rest of her life? Some of the surrounding male disciples had their hearts entirely broken, seeing their goddess so deeply doused with the sweet scent of love. But they weren't angry in the least bit. After all, the target of her affections was their number one revered senior brother Lin. Neither heaven nor earth was enough to withstand senior brother Lin's mighty image. Looking at his brother Lin, who knew how to enjoy life, Shinfeng let out a laugh as well. Even though it was his sect's disciples doing the hard work and chores, it was all natural to him. If anyone else dared to make such requests, Shinfeng would probably have leapt for their throats. Brother Shinfeng, could you help me to look out for this thingy in the future? Lin Fan tossed the Supreme Being's token shard to Shinfeng. Other than coming to Jushao sect, Lin Fan's main objective was to continue searching for these token shards. Now that he had only found one of them, he did not know where to even begin searching for the rest of them. Based on his own efforts, this might very well take forever. Hearing his brother Lin's need for help, Shinfeng could not be happier to oblige. Upon receiving the token shard, he exclaimed out in surprise at this familiar-looking object. You've seen it? Looking at the change on Shinfeng's face, Lin Fan asked hurriedly. Yes, I have. Back when I visited the Xuanjian sect with my master, their grandmaster had something like this with her as well. Xuanjian sect. Lin Fan found this name pretty familiar. Suddenly, it hit him. Wasn't Xuanjian sect the one where he had trained that fine lad, Lu Linfang? Due to the trap within the Seven Saints' lair, he was then teleported elsewhere. You're certain? Lin Fan continued. Highly likely. Even though the imprint on it isn't exactly the same, the look is similar. And it was a piece of shard as well. Lin Fan nodded his head. Finally, there was a clue now. Brother Lin, is this thing really important to you? Yes, somewhat. Lin Fan nodded his head. This thing held the secret of Xuanwang World's division into 2 parts. Once he gathered all of these, he would be able to return to Kangling continent. Alright, I'll get all our disciples to watch out for this from now on forth. Xinfeng kept this matter in his heart. Lin Fan then had the goddess stop her massage before wiping his feet clean and wearing his shoes. Brother Xin, it's about time for me to leave. Seems like I have to pay Xuanjian sect a visit. Are you in such a rush? Aren't you gonna stay for a little bit longer? Xinfeng's voice had some reluctance in it. It wasn't just Xinfeng who was reluctant, even the disciples themselves were unwilling to watch Lin Fan leave just like that. The goddess herself revealed a look of sadness in her eyes. Nah, it's fine, I'll head back another day. Lin Fan replied. Knowing that the matter must be pressing, Xinfeng made no further attempts to keep Lin Fan here. Before leaving, Lin Fan passed the battle arc he borrowed from the Grandmaster over to Xinfeng. Now that all the top powers of Jushao sect had passed away, their battle arc's locations were unknown as well. If Jushao sect wanted to continue growing, they would require a battle arc for expeditions. Otherwise, it would be inconvenient for them to head anywhere. Of course, Xinfeng would have rejected his intentions. After all, Brother Lin had simply helped him too much. If he had accepted this gift as well, then that would be too much. But Lin Fan realized that this thing might be too attention-seeking at times. Furthermore, while traveling on the battle arc, he might miss out on a lot of locations where he could search for his stuff. Since the Supreme Being's token shard was broken, it had the possibility of being anywhere. On that dark and breezy night, when Xinfeng came by to look for Lin Fan, he found out that Lin Fan had already left the sect. And in his place, the shrunken-down battle arc sat quietly. Looking at the mini battle arc, Xinfeng's eyes were filled to the brim with tears. In a dense forest far from Jushao sect, every step Lin Fan took was a leap of a few hundred feet. He was no longer interested in the wild beasts around him. These things were too weak for him to even bother with anymore. He was quite a distance from Xuanjian sect. Even at this rate of travel, he would require some time before reaching them. The days and nights passed. 10 days later, looking at the construct before him, Lin Fan finally slowed down. The building before him was an inn. But the weird thing was its location. Why was it situated in such a desolate place? And the shocking thing was that despite the desolate location of this place, the number of people entering and exiting it was astounding. Just as Lin Fan approached the inn, the people around the inn sized up Lin Fan as well. Lin Fan paid no heed to these people. Most of them were paracelestials. And by the look of their clothing, they did not seem like they belonged to any sect. Within the inn, Lin Fan secured a table for himself. Sitting down, he ordered some food and listened into the conversations taking place nearby. Surprisingly, there was quite the spread of fighting strength in this place. Other than paracelestials, there were lesser celestials as well. Amazingly, there was even an ordinary-looking old man who was a greater celestial. For a vagrant martial artist to be a greater celestial was an incredible achievement to Lin Fan. Not long after, Lin Fan finally knew what sort of a place this was. This inn was a unique existence. It served as a place for people to trade missions for mercenaries. Those people who were here either came with requests or to accept missions. The missions here were extraordinary and out of this world, and came in all sorts of varieties. As long as one thought that the compensation was enough, one could choose to accept any one of them. Lin Fan did not think that such a place would exist. If he had not seen it for himself, he might not have believed it. And just then, a group of people entered from outside. A young lady was masked with a shawl, followed by a group of men. Even though the female was of paracelestial lower level, her followers were at paracelestial upper level. For the standards of vagrant martial artists, these were considered pretty formidable people. But for someone like Lin Fan, these were nothing. As the young lady headed up the stage, her crisp, clear voice was quivering and somewhat urgent. Long Yuan dynasty is seeking able men to resist a beast stampede. Reward. Title of Marquis. In her gentle voice, she stood there, looking down at the crowd somewhat anxiously, hoping someone would accept the mission. Translator's thoughts. Lamb lamb, off we go to the new arc yay. By the way, Long Yuan Dynasty loosely translates to Dragon Valley. But because the context isn't made clear, I'd rather keep it as Long Yuan and inform you guys of it here. Cheers. Chapter 315, Let's do it first. Chapter 315, Let's do it first. This mission didn't sound too tough indeed. Just a while back, Lin Fan had resisted a beast stampede for an entire county. In fact, he even bumped into a humanoid beast whose cultivation base was pretty decent. Just that the beast had managed to escape by self-mutilation just as Lin Fan was about to take it down. To Lin Fan, that was quite a deep regret of his. This girl in shawls was opening quite attractive terms as well. Title of a marquis. To a vagrant martial artist, other than working on improving their cultivation bases, obtaining wealth and power was pretty important as well. But the surprising thing was that no one in the crowd would take on this task. This was pretty suspicious. November LBJNN. For them to not take on such a lucrative and easy mission, were people really so greedy these days? The shawled girl looked down at the crowd nervously. When she realized no one was taking on the mission, her snow-white complexion started flushing red as well. Princess Long Yuan, I think you should stop with recruiting for this mission. The beast stampede that the Long Yuan dynasty is going to face this time around is definitely not going to be easy. That's right, whoever accepts this mission is probably doomed. If I recall correctly, this should be the Long Yuan dynasty's 6th beast stampede, right? A greater celestial level beast appeared during your last beast stampede alone. Out of those who accepted your mission, barely a few of them survived. And out of those survivors, all of them were crippled and disabled. Listening to the comments of the crowd, Princess Long Yuan was a loss for words as well. Everyone, please, I implore you to lend us your assistance. The Long Yuan dynasty will do its best to fulfill any requests you have. Princess Long Yuan, this old man here has a piece of advice for you. You should try seeking help from those sects once again. The old man who had remained silent the entire time finally spoke up. The moment Princess Long Yuan heard that, her face was entirely dismal. We've tried approaching the sects as well, but none of them would help. Then this old man here has nothing left to say. The old man sighed. The surrounding crowd began to break into the conversation as well. Of course, those sects wouldn't help them. That's right, the only reason they survived the previous beast stampede was due to the help of these sects. But that greater celestial beast even cost them quite a number of casualties. I doubt they'd want to send anyone else anymore as well. The fact lies that the beast stampede only grows stronger with every wave. Even though the title of marquis is attractive, one has to be alive to enjoy it. That's right. Perhaps if the princess offered herself up for grabs, there would be more willing takers. Hee. Of course, the princess is rumored to be a great beauty. If she were to throw herself into the deal as well, there would definitely be takers. The guards standing guard by the princess stepped up momentarily and shouted, impudent. What, you guys wanna pick a fight? The moment the guard even started speaking up, these giggling vagrant martial artists stood up one after another and glared back at these guards. Princess Long Yuan held back these guards to keep them quiet. Taking a deep breath, her face was resolute as she continued, fine, I included. Princess. The princess did not reply as she looked down at the crowd. Title of marquis, and you can have me as well. The vagrant martial artists below looked at one another. They were just joking about it. To think that the princess would agree to it for real. But none of them were fools. The beast stampede this time round would definitely be even stronger than before. Even if they accepted this mission, they wouldn't be alive to enjoy the rewards. The princess decided to give it her all as well. She knew that the beast stampede this time round was extremely treacherous. Based on the rules of the stampedes, as long as the dynasty wasn't destroyed, they would only grow stronger wave after wave. The existence of the greater celestial beast during the last stampede had already cost the sects who had sent their assistance a great amount of losses. Not only did a senior elder of greater celestial middle level pass away, countless disciples perished within the resistance as well. Therefore, those sects who had casualties in the past would definitely stray from lending their help this time round. They garnered that the beast stampede this time round would attract nothing less than a greater celestial upper level, or even full cultivation beast. These beasts were practically invincible. They were not something an average sect could hope to deal with. Looking at the scene unfolding before him, Lin Fan chuckled. However, he still wasn't that interested in the mission. After all, there would definitely be time before the beast stampede came by. Using this time in between, the Long Yuan dynasty could definitely evacuate their residents before then. Just as Lin Fan was about to leave, he caught sight of something crazy. On the princess's waist, a shard was hanging on it. Those imprints, that design, wasn't that the Supreme Being's token shard? Looking carefully, Lin Fan verified his doubts. That was indeed the token shard for sure. To think that the Princess of Long Yuan would carry one with her. Since Princess Long Yuan has made such a request, then this old man shall give it a shot. Wouldn't be too bad being the son-in-law of the Long Yuan dynasty the first suppose. Just then, the only greater celestial being in the room spoke up once more. The princess's face turned pale. She had not expected this old man to take on the job. But since the Long Yuan dynasty was on the brink of destruction, she could only grit her teeth and bear with it. All the vagrant martial artists let out chuckles. Seemed like this old man wanted some tender and fresh meat, All of them knew that this old man was of a greater celestial cultivation base. But since they all knew each other around here for quite some time, jokes like these were of no offense. Seems like the princess is in for a sacrifice. Congratulations there, old bro. Not only can you get to be the marquis, you can even be a son-in-law with a beauty in your arms. To think that a peerless beauty such as the Princess Long Yuan would go into the arms of old bro. What envy I have. Old bro, can you withstand the beast stampede? Don't lose your life over the beauty. Since everyone's relationship with the old man was pretty decent, they teased him here and there. That wrinkled old face of his broke out into a smile as well. Oh. Look at me, I don't even have a son at this age. How about it? Shall we consummate first so that I can leave behind my bloodline, princess? If that's the case, even if I die in the beast stampede, I would have no regrets. Haha, what brilliant thoughts you have, old bro. That's a nice plan you've got there, old bro. How about you guys do it here too so that we can enjoy the sweet voice of Princess Long Yuan? Seems like old bro is quite the Casanova indeed. You'll die a happy ghost even then. Haha. Princess Long Yuan could not hold in her anger anymore as she replied coldly, after the beast stampede. Oh, no, if this old man here were to die in the beast stampede, wouldn't I be dying for nothing then? The old man waved his hand dismissively, rejecting her objection. Princess Long Yuan, you should just accede to our old bro's request. Also, the Long Yuan dynasty does not have a single greater celestial being. Who knows, perhaps after you satisfy him, he could put in his best for the beast stampede. Hey, that's right, with our old bro's help, your beast stampede may then stand a chance. And just as the princess was about to flare up, a voice came from another table. I'll accept this mission. Chapter 316, Forever Taken as a Braggart. Chapter 316, Forever Taken as a Braggart. Lin Fan just could not stand watching this any longer. Why was there so much incessant chattering just for such a simple mission? Even if he had not discovered the Supreme Being's token shard, he might have decided to throw in his assistance given how much of a fuss this was causing. To think that a man, whose age was practically enough for him to be the grandfather of this girl, would dream of lusting for her as such. What a speechless scene. Furthermore, now that he had found out about the existence of the token shard with Princess Long Yuan, Lin Fan did not mind making a trade out of this. The moment his voice rang out, everyone's gaze turned towards Lin Fan. Princess Long Yuan did the same. However, the moment she caught sight of who it was, her face looked disappointed. Haha, is this kid high or what? Hey kiddo, don't bite off more than you can chew, man. The beast stampede is not as easy as you would think of it to be. I think this kid's sharing the same thoughts as our old bro. Even if he were to die, he must get his hands on this beauty before him. What do you have to say about this, old bro? There's only one princess to be given away. Unless you wanna share with this guy. The old man was sizing up Lin Fan as well. Even with his strength of a greater celestial, he could not make out Lin Fan's capabilities. The thought of him being unable to tell Lin Fan's strength because of the other party being stronger than him did not even cross his mind. To the old man, strength was something that was accumulated with time. Even the genius disciples of the various sects could not possibly be stronger than him at their young age. Well, you had better give up on those dreams, lad. You won't be able to get the princess with just mere dumb guts to die. Given your fragile and pathetic body, you won't even be enough to fit between the teeth of the beasts. The old man continued laughing. No matter what, this old man here is a greater celestial lower level. There's no way you can compete with me. Ignoring everyone's words, Lin Fan pointed at the token shard. All I require for compensation is that thing. I can guarantee that the Long Yuan dynasty will not lose even a single weakest soldier. The moment his words came out, the crowd roared in laughter. Holy FCK, I, the great sword wielder, Wang Wu, have traveled the pugilistic world for 40 years now, yet this is the first time I've come across someone with such brash confidence. Old bro, seems like you've got a match right here. The words of this kid are practically like slaps across your face. FC King Hell, as a spear user of 20 years, I, Xiao Lu, had yet to see such a braggart. This is the first time I finally caught sight of one. If the sects were to hear this load of bullshit here, they might even spit out their blood entirely. Even they would not dare to promise that not even a single soldier will be lost. And yet, here we have someone with such big words. I gotta say that's pretty impressive. Old bro, in fact, even you're not a match for this guy. His ability of *TTING goes all the way up to a greater celestial full cultivation being level. You've got to bow down to that man. The inn was unusually noisy right now. Everyone was in bouts of laughter over Lin Fan's apparent ignorance. Not even a single soldier. What a big joke this was. Princess Long Yuan, what do you have to say about my terms? I can help you tide through this predicament without even a single soldier dying. All I ask for is that thing on your waist. Lin Fan repeated. Princess Long Yuan touched the black thing on her waist as she frowned, wondering what this man wanted to do with it. This thing had remained within the royal family's treasure vault since an ancient era. Back when she entered the treasure vault, she was intrigued by the design and imprint of it, so she hung it on her waist casually. To think that someone would want something like this. But to the princess right now, she would rather place her hopes on that old man than Lin Fan. After all, the age difference between them was clear. Even though a greater celestial lower-level being might not be able to protect the dynasty, there was still a strain of hope. As for Lin Fan, the princess had zero hopes on him. Just then, the old man spoke up, Princess Long Yuan, take this kiddo along. I have to see just what sort of capabilities he has to be able to blow that horn of his. I no longer want you as compensation. I'll just do my best based on the situation. If we fail the defense, I'll protect my own life first. If we manage to hold on, give me the title of Marquis and that'll do. Okay, Princess Long Yuan nodded her head. The old man then tossed Lin Fan a side glance, kid, don't piss your pants when the time comes. Lin Fan shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly, praising his own lucky stars. Seemed like he just had to offer a slight favor and he would get yet another token shard in return. Lady Luck was definitely on his side. Go, let's head to the dynasty right now. The old man beckoned with his hand. As he passed by Lin Fan, he let out an audible snort. He was someone who liked to tear apart the mask of braggarts. All the surrounding vagrant martial artists followed behind them. Naturally, they would not take part in the defense for their own safety. They would just hide somewhere far away and observe. After all, they might be able to scalp some valuable treasures after the Long Yuan dynasty was destroyed. Those sects had avoided anything to do with this. There were some martial artists within the Long Yuan dynasty that had thrown in the towel and escaped earlier for their own lives. Even those who were remaining were of a limited strength level, and of not much use. At this time, all the vagrant martial artists were gathered around Lin Fan and deep in chatters. Kid, where are you from? To think that your bragging skills even exceeds our old bros. There's still time for you to regret now. Once the invasion of the stampede starts, there's no way you can run away then. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. Looking at these vagrant martial artists, Lin Fan chuckled and decided to tease them as well. Don't worry man. The beast stampede's nothing much. I can turn them into dust with just a single palm strike. Sweet mother of gods, this braggart just does not let down on his lies. A martial artist carrying a big metal bar raised his thumb up. All the other vagrant martial artists burst out in laughter once more. This kid was just a walking riot. Even though the words might not be that funny themselves, but judging by his age along with the context, everyone could not help but continue laughing. One day later, they arrived at the Long Yuan dynasty. Naturally, Lin Fan was left forgotten while old man Mo was welcomed warmly. The emperor of the Long Yuan dynasty was only a lesser celestial upper-level being. But that was more than sufficient for him to lead the dynasty. As the princess relayed the events of the previous day, the emperor did not pay much attention to it. But he was still grateful to Lin Fan nevertheless. After all, anyone who would offer their help at this juncture was treated as VIPs. As for the residents of the dynasty, most of them had retreated to hide in their underground basements. This was the only way to reduce casualties against the oncoming beast stampede. Next day, on the city walls, the soldiers of the dynasty stood atop the walls, weapons and shields mounted on their arms. Their faces were grim, as they prepared for the oncoming stampede. Old Man Mo's face was stern as well. Even though he was a greater celestial lower level, he had only gathered a single energy grid line chain. If the beast stampede was really too deadly, he would have no way against it himself. The emperor and the princess were extraordinarily nervous, wondering how they should defend against this beast stampede. Somewhere secluded and far away from the Long Yuan dynasty, the vagrant martial artists were hidden and rife with discussions. What sort of beast do you think will come in this stampede? I've got a hunch that it'll be a greater celestial upper-level beast. I think it'll be greater celestial full cultivation. Oh man, seems like old bro Mo is gonna have a tough time, man. Don't worry, old bro Mo's already a greater celestial. It'll be easy for him to escape if things go south. Alright, enough with old bro Mo. I've got to see that braggart lad who promised no harm to even a single soldier. FCKU, brother. You actually believe that fool? FCKU too, brother. Do you think I'm really dumb? If I trusted his words, I'll be more retarded than retarded. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. No, you guys didn't read it wrongly. He's really old enough to be the grandfather of the grandfather. Ha ha ha. Also, I hope the beast will be something delicious for Lin Fan. And oh, in case you're confused, Mo is the surname of the old man. Cheers. I heard that the old Discord link expired. So here's the new permanent one. Join us at Web Links. Chapter 317, A Time for All to Despair. Chapter 317, A Time for All to Despair. Back on the city walls, Old Man Mo's face was calm on the surface, but his inner heart was like the raging seas. The skies were filled with red clouds in the distance, an ominous sign. The beast stampede was approaching from the distance. Before long, all hell was going to break loose. No one within the Long Yuan dynasty had any confidence towards defending against this beast stampede. In the previous few stampedes, they still harbored hope for life. But there wasn't any single bit of hope this time around. Kid, if you're afraid, you can go and hide first. Otherwise, when the stampede finally arrives, it'll be too late for you. Looking at Lin Fan standing there in a relaxed manner, Old Man Mo said in a displeased tone. This kid was seriously someone who would only cry if he were really stung. To think that he would still act and put on a strong front against the incoming beast stampede. Or, could it be that he was pissing his pants right now at the sight of the fearsome stampede? Old Man Mo had already thought it through in his head. If things were to go south, or a greater celestial middle-level beast and above were to appear, he would just turn tail and run. After all, he had spent 100+ years training to this greater celestial cultivation base. How could he just die at some place like this? Neither the title of Marquis nor the princess was enough for him to remain at this place. His own life was the most important thing naturally. Doesn't matter, I've heard that these beast stampedes have caused massive harm to the Dongling continent in recent years. Now that the Long Yuan dynasty is facing such a threat, there is no way I can just sit by idly. Lin Fan chuckled before taking Chicky out from his storage. Cuckoo. The moment Chicky came out, he began to call out in happiness. But immediately after, he was stunned by the incoming menacing aura from a distance. He used his head to bang against Lin Fan's cheeks, as though complaining, "Goodness Christ, it's always for nothing good when you get me out." Ha, what an interesting person you are indeed. To think that you would rear a chicken. Looking at Chicky who was resting on Lin Fan's shoulders, Old Man Mo let out a laugh. Looking at Chicky, Princess Long Yuan revealed a look of disappointment too. What sort of powerful being would rear such a useless creature? This was an animal that only common folks would rear, wasn't it? Cuckoo. Chicky cut back in a retaliatory tone. Seeing this old man's opinion of him as a chicken, he was extremely riled. Yours truly is an ancient beast, the phoenix. Lin Fan patted Chicky's head consolingly. Even though Chicky was the descendant of the phoenix, there should have been a mutation in his genes to cause him to look like this. Of course, these people wouldn't be able to tell anything special about him. In fact, if Lin Fan hadn't witnessed Chicky coming out of the phoenix egg, he might not have believed it himself. Boom, the ground shook as though everything was about to collapse. From the forest in the distance, the trees began to topple down one after another. The loud roars and howls of these beasts sent a massive shockwave towards the direction of Long Yuan dynasty. In fact, some of the soldiers could not even remain standing still in the face of this incoming force. The shadows from a distance grew ever denser as they approached. They were clumped together like ants, like a gigantic black hole. It was as though this was the mouth of a humongous divine beast that was waiting to devour the entire Long Yuan dynasty whole. Compared to the beast stampede back at Green Ridge County, this was practically King Kong. Seemed like there must definitely be someone commandeering these stampedes. Long Yuan dynasty was a huge place, with a population 10 of times more than Green Ridge County. Presumably, the mysterious force behind the beast stampede also understood the power of Long Yuan dynasty in comparison. Hence, it gathered a larger group of beasts for this oncoming onslaught. Looking at the scene, everyone from Long Yuan dynasty was extremely horrified. This was way more massive than before. The soldiers who had lost their balance from the sonic wave stood back up from the ground. But when they saw the sight before them, they shuddered in fear. Some of the weaker ones were literally peeing their pants as they squatted on the city walls, bawling in tears. Father, do we stand a chance? Princess Long Yuan asked while trembling. The emperor did not reply. His gaze was fixated at the stampede before him. At the same time, the hand which was wielding the sword of the emperor was starting to shake as well. Old Man Mo took in a deep breath. Seeing this hair-raising sight, he was starting to break out in cold sweat as well. He had witnessed beast stampedes before. But this was the first time he was seeing something like this. Millions, tens of millions, probably even more. And just as everyone was worrying, a single sentence of Lin Fan had everyone looking down on him as a person. In fact, some people even began to loathe him. Chicky, what a feast this would be, don't you think? A pity that they're mere beasts. Looking at the scene before him, Lin Fan was a little astonished as well. Just where were these beasts coming from? How come he hadn't come across such a large number of beasts anywhere before? For a beast stampede to form, these beasts must not have been able to gather from all directions. Otherwise, someone was bound to have found them out. Seemed like there were still quite a number of things that he did not know. Kid, enough is enough. Stop with the big words. Even if there were no greater celestial beast, just the sheer number of them is enough to shred us into pieces. Old Man Mo looked at Lin Fan while stroking his beard. He had not expected this kid to continue with the bullshit even at the brink of death. Princess Long Yuan looked at this man before her with eyes of hatred. She was getting irked by this man. If she had known that things would be as such, she wouldn't have agreed with letting him come along. To the princess, this man probably could not kill even a single beast. Taking a look at Old Man Mo, Lin Fan smiled without replying anything. He then looked into the distance and said, This is weird, how come the strongest beast there is only a lesser celestial full cultivation beast? What, just a lesser celestial full cultivation beast? Old Man Mo was about to continue, but upon hearing Lin Fan's words, he looked into the distance in disbelief. That wrinkled face of his then revealed a look of happiness. N-O-V-E-N.C-O-M. Haha, Princess Long Yuan, seems like the heavens do not want to smite you down just yet. To think that their leader would just be a lesser celestial beast. This old man here shall try to take a shot at taking down their leader straight up. Old Man Mo heaved a sigh of relief. If this was only a lesser celestial, he would definitely be able to take it down. Lin Fan looked the exchange between Old Man Mo and the princess, and he shook his head. What a fool, obviously, things wouldn't be so simple. How could there be just this lesser celestial leader for this large a stampede? But no matter the cultivation base of the beasts that came, they were all the same to Lin Fan. Even if the Eternal Arm was not the most powerful existence in the world, it was definitely overpowered in the Dongling continent. Just as Lin Fan was contemplating about these things, Old Man Mo shouted out loudly and leapt towards the stampede. He flew towards the lesser celestial beast with a murderous intent. Even though Old Man Mo was a greater celestial lower level with just a single energy grid line chain, he was an unsurpassable force for beasts of this level. With the thin energy grid line chain coiled around his body, Old Man Mo dashed towards the stampede with the power of the energy grids rumbling around. Even though he killed a large amount of them with a single strike, it was nothing more than a small dent in their massive numbers. The lesser celestial full cultivation leader within the stampede roared in anger as it engaged Old Man Mo in a massive cutthroat battle. Hiding in the distance, all these vagrant martial artists were extremely excited at this development as well. Old Bro Mo is fit as a bull even at his age. Great Sword Wang Wu is impressed. Holy shit, that twin dragon's ball play skill of Old Bro is as grand as it can get. What bullshit are you guys even spouting? I, spear specialist, Zhao Xiaoliu, have used the spear for over 20 years. The moment Old Bro struck, I saw that level of his skill. It's a state whereby he could even easily summon a spear out of just the spirit of the spear in his heart. Impressive. Impressive indeed. And just as Old Man Mo was engaged in the battle with the lesser celestial beast, everything changed. Not good, I've been tricked. This isn't a lesser celestial full cultivation beast. Stimulated by the battle, Old Man Mo suddenly realized the massive growth in the beast to his dismay. Bam! With a single swipe, the beast sent Old Man Mo flying towards the dynasty's walls. It's over, it's over. Managing to regain his composure, Old Man Mo spat out an entire mouthful of fresh blood as he exclaimed. He had wanted to put on a good show in front of everyone. But to think that the beast wasn't a lesser celestial full cultivation. By now, an air of dread encompassed everyone within the Long Yuan dynasty. Translator's thoughts. Lam lam. Ha ha ha, actually I thought that Lin Fan was just trolling him on purpose. Would have been funnier that way, emo sad face. Chapter 318. Turn to dust with a single finger. Chapter 318. Turn to dust with a single finger. Holy FCK, what a despicable beast. Lin Fan stared at the beast in the distance speechlessly. Using his system to check it out previously, it was evidently a lesser celestial full cultivation beast. But to think that his cultivation base would explode up instantaneously. Lin Fan knew that there was no way the system could be wrong. Therefore, this beast must have been hiding something one way or another. The beast in the distance tilted its head up into the skies and roared. Using both of its claws, it pierced into its own body and ripped it apart, tearing its fur into TWP. Gra! The skies changed color as a beam of light shone down from the heavens, encompassing the beast within it as its aura rocketed still. Greater celestial lower level. Greater celestial middle level. ... Greater celestial full cultivation. Within the void, 16 energy grid line chains coiled with one another, raining storm and lightning down where the beast was. At the same time, a gigantic void was ripped apart above the beast. Humanoid beast. Lin Fan looked at the scene with a fixated gaze. This was the second humanoid beast he had seen so far. Behind it were 4 pairs of flaming wings. Boasting a height of a few thousand feet, he stood upright and mighty within the beasts. With an intimidating aura, his presence caused everyone to shiver. Roar! The humanoid beast roared into the skies once more. Its razor-sharp teeth looked ready to tear through any piece of the void. A pitch-black beam was sucking in energy repeatedly within the mouth of the beast. Shit, it's over. That aura is something of a greater celestial full cultivation state. Old Man Mo screamed out in a frenzy. Disregarding everything else, he wanted to escape out of this place through the void immediately. But something happened that caused his blood to curl. The void he opened up had been sealed up. Impossible. I can't just die here. Old Man Mo was panicking right now. He had not expected this beast to be this strong. There was simply no room for resistance. As for the vagrant martial artists hiding nearby, they were completely confounded. Old bro is going to die. This beast stampede has already reached a state of invincibility. No one is going to be able to stop this. The humanoid beast's aura is simply too scary. Look at that black mass of energy that's gathering within its mouth. That looks absolutely destructive. Holy shit, you guys are still going to discuss. How about thinking of a way to get out of this place? I think we're also in the vicinity of the blast radius. At this rate, the Long Yuan dynasty is not the only thing that's perishing today. We're gonna die here too. Ha, that beast has already sealed this entire place up. Look at the screen, there's no way we're going to be able to escape. Boo-hoo, Great Sword Wang Wu doesn't want to die yet. I have yet to lose my virginity. Even though Xiao Lu's specialty is in spears, I've yet to spear through a black hole to experience that epitome of pleasure in the human world. I don't want to die yet. ... Lin Fan looked at the beast. 16 energy grid line chains on a single beast. This beast could practically be unstoppable in the entire Dongling continent. But why had he not heard of such an existence before in his life? This is strange indeed. Definitely strange. Lin Fan was determined to capture this beast alive for a thorough interrogation. Old Man Mo was seated in a crippled position with a look of despair on his face, nowhere befitting of a greater celestial being's demeanor. He recalled back to the arduous amount of training and tribulations he had been through to finally achieve the state of a greater celestial at the age of 100. But now, everything was about to vanish into the air. He would disappear without a single trace left in this world under this beast stampede. Princess Long Yuan stood rooted where she was, stoned as well. In her eyes reflected the massive number of beasts in the stampede, as those flaming wings of the beast surged with lava flames. The 16 energy grid line chains brought forth a devastating aura, causing one to feel suffocated as it gushed down like a tidal wave. Kid, do you regret it now? We're all doomed. Screaming at Lin Fan, Old Man Mo was filled with indignance towards this world. What doomed and what not? Princess Long Yuan, I told you. Not a single soldier shall come to harm. All I seek for compensation is that thing on your waist. Lin Fan replied casually. Princess Long Yuan gave out a cold laughter. Taking the token off her waist, she tossed it over to Lin Fan. Ha, this thing, so what if you take it now? None of us are getting out of here alive anyways. Receiving the token, Lin Fan's lips curled into a grin as he tossed it into his storage. That made two now. The Emperor of Long Yuan dynasty had already lost before this even began. His sword of the Emperor was lying on the ground beside him, fallen from his hand as he had lost all will to fight. In the face of absolute power, resistance was futile. A great dynasty 100 years in the making. To think that it was going to fall in the face of a beast stampede. He was filled with resentment. But there was nothing he could do about it. Gra! With a final roar, the humanoid beast fired the ball of dark energy he had been gathering in his mouth towards Long Yuan dynasty, storming everything in its way. Wherever it passed, the earth was ripped up as only chaos laid in its wake. We're dead. Everyone gave up on defending as they closed their eyes shut in despair. Why should they bother wasting any more energy in the face of certain death? The dark light encompassed everything as it grew ever larger in everyone's face. One could even see the waves of pandemonium that was approaching from the ball. You know, looking down on people may bring slaps across your own faces at certain times. Just as everyone was in a state of absolute despondency, they heard Lin Fan's voice. Everyone chuckled out within their hearts. They did not know why, but they hoped that this man could retain this cheery demeanor even through his oncoming death. So what if it's a greater celestial full cultivation beast? So what if it has 16 energy grid line chains? In my eyes, it's still just a mere beast. Lin Fan stood calmly above the city walls, waiting for the quickly arriving energy ball. Ha ha, kid. This old man here salutes you indeed. To think that you can still maintain that attitude in the face of death. I'll admit that I'm inferior to you in that regards. Old Man Mo laughed out in irony. Old man, this is not an attitude. This is a fact. In the face of something stronger than itself, everything will disappear into dust. Just as how you guys look at it as something strong. In reverse, I see that thing as nothing. Lin Fan turned around and smiled gently. Looking at Lin Fan's smile, Old Man Mo's heart skipped a beat as well. Princess Long Yuan, even though you're pretty beautiful indeed, but you have personality issues with a bad temper. You would do well to improve on that aspect of yourself in the future. Lin Fan gently raised his right hand. The moment the princess heard these words, she was burning with rage. But she laughed mockingly soon after. After all, they were all going to be dead soon. Why should she be bothered with what this man says? Ding! Just then, a crisp, clean sound permeated the entire dynasty. Old Man Mo, Princess Long Yuan and everyone else opened their eyes wide in shock, unable to believe the scene before them. How could this be? Looking at the sight before him, Old Man Mo's goosebumps raised throughout his body. Princess Long Yuan found herself stumbling, struggling to stand still as well from the shock of it all. What did they see exactly? To think that this person whom they had been looking down on, he had stopped the entire energy mass with just a single lift of his finger. And by the looks of it, it was really nothing much to him. The energy ball had destroyed everything in its path all the way here. But under Lin Fan's finger, it could not even move a single inch forward. How about now? Lin Fan asked calmly. Looking at Lin Fan, Old Man Mo suddenly yelled out into the skies. Powerful man, are you finally satisfied? Lin Fan laughed and asked. This Old Man Mo was an interesting old man indeed. Why yes. Do you want to live? Yes, I'm dreaming of it right now. Well, let me hear something nice then. Powerful man, you're the man that this old man has already been dreaming of in his sweet dreams. Tears flowed out of Old Man Mo's face as he screamed without any restraint. Phew! With a gentle flick of his finger, Lin Fan sent the energy ball flying back towards the beast stampede at a much faster speed than it arrived with. Looking at the rebounded energy ball, the humanoid beast with 16 energy grid line chains opened its eyes wide in shock as well. But before it could even react, it was swallowed whole by its own energy ball. Chapter 319, Too Damn Bloody Strong. Chapter 319, Too Damn Bloody Strong. FCK. What the FCK was that? Far in the distance, one of the vagrant martial artists was viewing the scene unfold with a pair of binoculars. He was totally dumbfounded. What are you talking about, Wang Wu? Let me see. That's right, Wang Wu. Hurry up. The rest of us are seeing nothing. ... Shut up, I'm not done here just yet. It was too damn close. I thought that the Long Yuan dynasty was going to be extinguished right there. But can you guys guess what happened? Wang Wu, the great sword wielder, had yet to recover fully from the shock. What happened? Hurry up and tell us. That's right, don't beat around the bush. What happened? Wang Wu took a deep breath and continued in disbelief. Just now. You know that lad we made fun of? HEFC King used a single finger to repel the entire energy ball. FCK. For real, don't bullshit us, man, Wang Wu. That's right, how can that be? Naturally, none of them believed him at all. This was akin to saying the entire world had turned upside down. If he had said something like old bro being lively as a dragon even at his age and letting out an extraordinary burst, they would have still believed him. But to say something like that lad repelling the entire ball of energy with just his finger. This was impossible in their eyes. Wang Wu, Xiaolu here has 20 years in the expertise of the spear. I've seen all sorts of things around the world. But what you just said, I still doubt it. Pass me the binoculars to see for myself. Get lost. Whether or not you believe it is up to you. As long as I believe in it. Wang Wu waved his hand off dismissively. Gotta be shitting him. This was such an exciting show. There was no way he wasn't watching this all the way until the end. He'd definitely regret it. FCK. This guy wants to enjoy the entire show on his own. Hey, FCK. FCK, what are you guys doing? Stop snatching. This is mine. Hey, don't go overboard. Otherwise, you can't blame me for taking out my great sword on you guys. Okay FCK, all of you guys. Fine, since I'm going to die anyways. I'll just head over there to watch it live for myself. Old Man Mo, the princess, and everyone else were all beyond stupefied. The view before them was bedazzling. The strong gust of wind was like 1,000 slaps across their very faces. The princess was especially petrified. She had looked down on this man all the while, and the fact right now stung her face like literal tight slaps. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. P powerful man, is that thing dead? Old Man Mo asked while lying on the ground, looking extremely fatigued and pathetic right now. No, Lin Fan replied calmly. The moment Old Man Mo heard that, he was extremely worried. To think that this wasn't enough to kill that thing. At the same time, Old Man Mo placed every single last bit of hope he had remaining onto Lin Fan. Ra-rghhhhh. The roar penetrated through the skies. The beast was entirely riled. To think that there was someone within the dynasty who could reflect its attack and leave it in such a laughable state. After the light of the explosion dispersed, everyone could see that half of the humanoid beast's body had been eaten up by the blast. All the beasts in miles of its vicinity had disappeared as well. Lin Fan ignored the notifications of the system entirely. These mediocre experience points were not worthy of him chasing after. As for their essence blood, they stood no chance of even surviving through that energy blast. But, Lin Fan did not even feel regret about it. Now that his blood C was at the 6th level, all this essence blood of common beasts did not give him that much of a booster anymore. Hence, he was pretty alright making do with not having them. The humanoid beast was still roaring. A massive surge of energy reverberated through the skies. At the same time, that mess of an injured body was recovering rapidly as well. By nature, beasts were much stronger than the entire race of mankind. Be it fighting strength or physical body strength, there was no way humans could match up the beasts. Just this beast alone would be impossible for even Glory Sect and Jushao Sect's grandmasters to kill with their forces combined. In fact, if they were careless, they may even get wiped entirely by this beast. A beast with 16 energy grid line chains was not something any human of the same level could hope to deal with. Boundless hatred was burning in the eyes of the humanoid beast. With a glaring light glowing in its eyes, all 4 flaming wings flapped furiously. Roar! This roar was filled with fury as that dense stampede of beasts started rushing over upon that call, bent on destroying Long Yuan dynasty. Every single general, listen up. Defend the city gates with your lives. Do not let the beasts get through. Long Yuan Emperor gave down the orders. His heart was filled with immeasurable hope right now as well. He had not expected such a powerful man to have come forward to assist for this beast stampede. Seemed like they had hope in defending against this after all. But looking at the large army of beasts rushing towards them, even if they managed to defend this, they would definitely have to pay a costly number of casualties for it. But as long as the dynasty survived, casualties were unavoidable. Princess Long Yuan looked at Lin Fan with extremely shameful eyes. She had not expected that the truly powerful man was the person she had looked down on at the start. Don't bother defending. I've made a deal with the princess. There shall be no casualties from your side. Even though they may have a large number of beasts, this wouldn't change anything. Looking at the dense army of beasts, Lin Fan revealed a smile of confidence. Long Yuan Emperor was completely stumped by now. To think that this powerful man would refer to this dense army of beasts before him as though he completely disregarded their existence entirely. The Emperor wanted to implore Lin Fan to take down the wave that was coming through. But just as the words came to his throat, he swallowed them down again in shock. Because at this moment, the young man's aura had changed entirely. Old Man Mo could feel the aura of the powerful man surging rapidly. It was as though a sword was being unsheathed and was cutting through the shells of their bodies right now. White robes, with his long hair swaying in the wind gently. Lin Fan's aura gradually turned stronger. In the eyes of the masses, his image was too mighty. He floated up gently into the skies. Firmament sword. Benevolence sword. ... This highest level of the way of the sword erupted out from him as both sword wills rushed out and floated gently behind his back. My God, what a strong sword will. Just a look over and I can feel my eyes being pierced. Old Man Mo raised his head and looked over while squinting his eyes. This sword will was simply too strong, that even a greater celestial like him was finding it hard to withstand it. Princess Long Yuan could not even look in the direction of it. Those voluptuous bosoms of hers were bouncing up and down violently due to excitement over the aura. Faceless Sky Demon, the six-armed and three-headed demon appeared behind him. Recently, Lin Fan had discovered a brand new ability for this mental skill. Know no bounds and be bounded by no laws. Divide. And just like that, the faceless Sky Demon behind Lin Fan began splitting into two. 2 to 4. Slowly, the entire skies were filled with faceless Sky Demons. This was the same trick that the Eternal Donger had used. Lin Fan could not help but praise its impressiveness. Old Man Mo was losing his mind right now. Just what sort of skill was this? How could it be so bloody, sick? And something sicker was about to happen. The two different sword wills began to divide out as well. One after another, the skies were filled with long swords crafted from Lin Fan's sword will. How could this be? How could such a domineering sword will be emanating from a single person? Old Man Mo could not believe everything that was happening right now. He had thought that he was extremely powerful the moment he had reached a greater celestial state. But compared to the man before him, he was nothing. Old Man Mo, which sect is this man from? The Emperor asked in shock. No idea, no idea. Old Man Mo shook his head furiously. Rushing towards the Long Yuan dynasty, those vagrant martial artists lost their footing and sat on the ground with their jaws wide open as they witnessed the sight before them. Everything that was happening right now was simply too scary. I had intended to kill all of you with a single palm strike. But forget it, your essence blood should serve a purpose as well. Lin Fan commented casually. But this casual remark had made its way to Old Man Mo's ears. Ugh, he nearly spat out a mouthful of blood from his old body. Destroy all of them with a single palm strike. Holy FCK. Destroy. Lin Fan flicked his robes as the skies of faceless Sky Demons and sword wills rocketed down below. Just then, the humanoid beast froze up as well. It could feel a gaze locking onto it. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. Will Lin Fan let another humanoid beast escape his grasp? We shall find out. Cheers. Chapter 320. Perfection-seeking Lin Fan. Chapter 320. Perfection-seeking Lin Fan. The humanoid beast's anger was boundless right now. He was considered a champion among the beasts. This expedition to destroy this so-called dynasty should have been something he could do with a sweep of his hand. He wanted to return to the sealed grounds in glory, stained with human blood up to his arms. But to think that he was being stopped by a mere human right now. And the most intolerable thing was the fact that this bloody human was looking at him with a smile on his face. It was a smile so creepy that the beast could feel his own anus tightening up. Old Man Mo had gone through a series of emotions. From shock to breakdown, and now back to shock once more. This triple blow to his mental self was enough to carve a heart so strong he should no longer be fazed by anything in the future. But what in the hell was this scene before him once again? Even if this powerful man were extremely mighty, he should really consider what was happening before his eyes. His sword will was running out, but the beasts continued to swarm towards the dynasty. The humanoid beast did not move at all. Those flaming eyes just glared at his own army of beasts as his malevolent face let out a smile. It was as though he was taunting Lin Fan, your sword will and faceless Sky Demons are going to be overrun by my beasts soon. On the city walls, Chicky was seated with his backside straight down. Flapping his wings, he cried out loudly. Towards the situation with the stampede, he wasn't bothered in the slightest. Princess Long Yuan's face let out a look of worry as she said, "Father, please have the soldiers ready to stand guard. The stampede is approaching our gates." Towards the man floating in the skies, she no longer had any words she could say to him. To think that the beast stampede would be filled with dead bodies after just one move from him. This was power that she had never seen before in her life. "Old bro, how's the battle going?" Just then, the vagrant martial artists rushed over from a distance and asked in excitement. "Wow, the powerful man's back view is really mighty indeed." Xiao Lu looked up at Lin Fan in the skies and could not help but exclaim out in praise. Old Man Mo sobered back up as he gripped Xiao Lu's wrist tightly. "You guys came in the nick of time. The void around here has been sealed up, and no one is able to escape. The powerful man can deal with the humanoid beast, but we have to defend against the oncoming beast stampede as well." Looking at the massive wave of beasts, Wang Wu gulped and replied, "Oh old bro. Do you think we can hold against that?" "HMPH, Wang Wu, we must hold on even if we cannot hold on any longer. Xiao Lu here shall shoot my spear out of the water and kill until I become like a god." Xiao Lu waved his spear around causing some ripples in the air, with a look of confidence on his face. "More like you become a ghost. Trust me, we've had a deal, remember? If I ever marry and get a wife, I'll retreat back into the woods to live, and we'll be neighbors." Xiao Lu was filled with dreams and hopes towards his future. How could he die here? Everyone was filled to the brim with confidence right now. Now that the humanoid beast was going to be handled by the powerful man, they should have a chance against the rest of the beasts. However, everyone knew in their hearts as well that this would definitely go with some casualties. Old Man Mo slowly regained his breathing as he was recovering from his previous wounds. Thankfully, the blow from the beast wasn't too tough. Otherwise, he would have turned into dust with just that single blow. "Powerful man, the beast stampede has arrived. Please leave it to us," Old Man Mo said after maintaining his silence for a moment. It had been a long time since he had worked together with anyone else in a party. At this, Old Man Mo could not help but reminisce back to his youth. That was a. Upon hearing Old Man Mo's voice, Lin Fan who was floating in the skies felt somewhat awkward. To think that he had just performed a wonderful act just now, but something as such would crop up. He had underestimated the number of beasts in the stampede, resulting in his swordwheel and faceless sky demons lacking in number. To a perfectionist of the art of bullshit, this mistake was extremely intolerable. Even at this point where the issue had already cropped up, he must work hard at solving the matter. Sobering up, Old Man Mo began to command the people present. "Wang Wu, you head there to assist the princess. Xiao Lu, bring some people along with you towards the soldiers. November LBJNN. What about you, old bro? As the highest cultivation base here, this old man shall fight alone. Remember, even though the powerful man is extremely powerful, these beasts are far from ordinary. We must do our best to not let the powerful man be distracted." Old Man Mo replied. "Sure, old bro, once we tide through this, I'll treat everyone here to drinks. Yes, to have the honor of fighting together with this powerful man shall make it a tale for the ages." Old Man Mo replied with vigor, as though he had turned younger by dozens of years. Even if he were to brag about it, this would make a great topic in the future. Floating in the skies, Lin Fan could feel his limelight being swallowed away by these guys. He looked at the oncoming beast stampede with extreme displeasure. He had wanted to leave their bodies for the reaping. But fine, since they did not cherish it, he would then just make them disappear entirely. "Brothers, let's go." Just as Old Man Mo was about to give them a pep talk, a voice rang through his ears. "HMPH, I had intended to let you guys die with a whole body at first. Since you guys do not know how to cherish the chance I gave you, then you can all turn into dust." Lin Fan was riled as he raised his palm. Suddenly, the skies changed, as there was a gigantic suffocating aura in the air. "Destroy." Boom. A gargantuan palm strike descended down from the skies, ripping the void entirely apart. Due to its colossal size, the entire skies were covered momentarily. However, even that moment was stuck in everyone's minds. Boom. The ground vibrated as the entire Long Yuan dynasty shook. In fact, it wasn't just Long Yuan dynasty, it felt as though the whole world was in a tremor right now. Covering hundreds of miles in that single palm strike, everyone from the Long Yuan dynasty was scared silly. Driven and raring to go, Old Man Mo was confounded by the sight of that palm strike. He gripped onto the railings by the walls as his body shivered under the intimidating aura. The image in his eyes was burnt straight into his mind. HMPH, all of you deserve it. Lin Fan swept his robes, hands behind his back. These people were not the only ones trembling. The humanoid beast started to shiver at the sight of this as well. Those flames burning in his pupils bounced up and down rapidly. Suddenly, he broke into a run. Realizing this, Lin Fan shouted out. Chicky, take him down. Lin Fan gave chase towards the dense forest immediately. Cuckoo, Chicky leapt up from the city walls and jumped into the skies. Suddenly, a red light erupted from Chicky as a pair of glowing red wings glided across the skies, following his master. Old Man Mo did not even know where to begin. Especially after witnessing Chicky's transformation, he collapsed onto the ground with a loud thud. Wielding his spear, Xiaolu stood rooted where he was, his jaw dropping down. Great sword wielder Wang Wu had pulled out his great sword in a striking pose ready to strike. But at this moment, he was just frozen solid in that silly pose. Princess Long Yuan and the Emperor were equally still. After a long time, can anyone tell me what just happened? Old Man Mo spoke first, his mind in an entire whirl. And that chicken, was that really a chicken? Old bro, the powerful man seemed to have merely raised his hand before slapping down. Xiaolu started. After that slap, the entire earth quaked. Wang Wu continued. After the earthquake, the beast stampede disappeared. Xiaolu carried on. Everyone was slowly recovering from their shock. One by one, their eyeballs popped out in disbelief. Holy F***ck. Powerful man, all I wanted to do was to fight alongside you. Why wouldn't you even give me that chance? Old Man Mo screamed out like a vengeful widow, looking at that disappearing back view of Lin Fan in sorrow. Translator's thoughts. Lam. Ha 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 ha. Actually, this Wang Wu and Xiaolu characters weren't so funny at the start. But seeing how the author has added them in chapter after chapter just made it even funnier. I don't even know why. Ha 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 ha. I think recurring running gags are just funny emo. Ha ha ha. Cheers.